Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to the Comics and the Cross podcast, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. I, of course, am your host, Cross, here as always, and after a week off, I know you have all desperately
I'm
missed
back,
them.
ladies and gentlemen. I'm back.
Nitro is finally back. Oh, let me
What's up, everybody?
Ad's coming in with that host already. He is coming in right away with that. Thank you so much for that,
right
brother.
Out the gate.
Yeah,
right out the
gate, man. He's in here hosting us. We appreciate it, brother. Ad's been a massive supporter pretty much since day one, so thank you so much as always. So Nitro, how was the vacay, man?
It was awesome, dude.
I mean, you were gone for a week. I had to replace you with 3 people, dude.
I know, right?
Because that's what it takes. I had to bring in like the whole One Geek 411. Shout out to One Geek 411, by the way. Go and check out their channel.
I got to listen to the podcast. It was awesome, man. It was cool.
Let me throw a little shout out to them actually, since I'm mentioning them. And make sure that this is actually still working as well. Geek 411. They are now. I'd like to think we inspired them. They're now recording their podcast live on Twitch as well, so go ahead and give them a follow, and make sure you check out our YouTube to catch our episode last week where the One Geek 411 crew did join me to talk about MCU Phase 2.
Yeah, and I've got a little bit of a bone to pick. I forgot who it was, but he was above you, and he was saying that the Winter Soldier wasn't in his top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to have some words. I need to have some words.
That was right to the heart of that one, man. I'm like,
yeah.
Winter Soldier.
And everybody's entitled to their opinion, even if it's wrong. So.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Yeah.
We love you guys. Just jawsome with you. But yeah, honestly, like still to this day, Winter Soldier is arguably my favorite MCU movie. Even compared to Infinity War and Endgame, depending on the day you ask me. Like I rewatched Winter Soldier for that show, and I'm like, it's still as good as it ever was.
It's really
I still love it. It's so good. I think I'll watch it again. The fight scenes are amazing. But yeah, how was the vacay, man? How was it? You had a whole week away from it. It's first time like we had a week off. You had a week off without us having like family emergencies and me going to the ER and stuff. And
we went to Michigan and got to dip my toes in some of the Great Lakes, which is pretty cool. I think Lake Michigan, what is the U one? Yeah, I forgot. But yeah, a couple of the lakes up there.
Not the person to be asking. Like the guy that's been here for 7 years and has been living on the East Coast, like not the guy to ask.
I want to say Lake Uriah, but I just have MMA on my brain, so it's definitely not Uriah, obviously. Superior or something.
I'm just gonna name the Great Lakes after
Lake Uriah
after UFC fighters, you know. It's like it's fine. Yeah. Which, by the way, massive shout out, UFC is back and better than ever.
I know, dude. I know. I'm so excited.
They had UFC 251 and they had Fight Night. Was it last night they had a Fight Night? And I'm so glad UFC's back.
Dude, have you seen the game? Have you seen the game they're coming out with?
Yeah, it looks sweet, man. I know this isn't comic book topic for anyone that's tuned in.
It's geek related, so I think we're in our wheelhouse here.
It's a video game, so we can get away with it. And if you don't know, like literally, I'm not a sports person at all. I grew up on wrestling. I tried to get into football and baseball and basketball, but like UFC, I will 100% watch MMA. It's like I'm all in for that. Ads in the chat saying the game looks amazing. Like
dude, it looks phenomenal, and I like the way that they're kind of taking an arcadey like perspective from it, more like arcade, as opposed to just straight on. This is what we do in the fight world. It reminds me of like Fight Night back in the day, the boxing games back in the day.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. I love it. It's like Mortal Kombat meets UFC. It's fantastic.
I'm all in because I'll be honest, I've never really played the UFC games.
I haven't either.
Like I did try one. Like I don't even remember what one it was. It might even have been the first one. Back when they first came out, and I couldn't get the controls because like fighting games I'm used to playing the wrestling games, and it's like just playing the characters just felt so stiff.
Yeah,
and I'm like, nah, I'm not about this. Like I love the sport, but I'm not about the game. But like this new one, I'm like, okay, that might be up for trying this out. I mean,
they just released a trailer for the career mode, and it looks fantastic, dude.
I'm like, I'm in. I'll give it a shot. Like I'm a UFC fan, and like I love it. I love a good fight.
I agree.
Like, you know, I mean, UFC 251 just happened, and the fights were amazing. It's just so good. It's just such a good thing, and I'm glad they're doing it, even if it is off like Fight Island and they've not got crowds. Which, don't get me wrong, I miss the crowds, but I'm like, if this is the way we get to have it, I'll take it.
Yeah, if that's not how Mortal Kombat starts, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it literally had that feeling.
Flying all these fighters into this.
All these fighters going to this remote island, empty arena, just the fighters and the necessity crew, and I'm like, all they need to tell you is that the multiverse is on the line and we're good.
If somebody doesn't suck the soul out of somebody's face, I'm going to be very disappointed. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, they're not going to give us that right away. It was only the first one there. You need to build to something like that.
Hey, give me an arcade machine falling on somebody then. Give me something.
Yeah, we can work with that. I'm sure we can work that one out.
360 kick uppercut.
Give it time. Dana White's always looking for like new gimmicks and stuff to throw in to draw people in. I'm like, it's like that can't be that far off, surely.
Yeah.
Alright, so for anyone who's not aware that is watching this as a comic book podcast, I know we've just opened it talking about UFC. That's officially a first for us, I think. We've opened a
we
comic
haven't
book
talked
podcast.
about UFC yet.
No, we've opened a comic book podcast talking about a sport. I'm sure we've just confused so many geeks that have came in here.
How dare you talk about sports?
It's like sports, how dare you? We don't do that here.
We don't either, so don't get the wrong impression.
Yeah, don't do it. Like everyone gets into these talks about American football, and I'm like, oh, isn't that a great game? I'm like, it's boring. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to say it as a foreigner coming in. Like, it's boring. And like, I will happily watch highlights of a game, but like, I don't have time to sit and watch you stop and start.
I feel like we're gonna lose a lot of
minutes.
fans on this.
Hey, I get away with it.
Yeah, that's true.
I came in. I tried. Hey, Tommy. See, Tommy's one of the fans we're going to lose talking about me not liking football.
Well, I will say, like,
thank you so much for that host, Tommy. Absolutely appreciate it, brother. Absolute
you watch
legend.
a 4-hour game, and you got maybe an hour and a half of football.
Yeah.
In that like entire 4 hours. So
see,
I think it's a lot of wasted time.
See, that's what wasted it for me. Is like I literally tried to get into football because like my wife's families are football nuts. They're football daft.
Yeah.
Right, so like I tried. Like they're all big they're from Colorado. They're all Denver Bronco nut jobs. You know, they're all like orange and blue all the way. I tried.
Does she listen to these podcasts?
No, because we talk about comic books. We're good. But like I tried because like over in the UK we get like highlights of like the football games and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, awesome, I'll watch this, and I'm like, this is good. I could get into this. I could get into this as a sport.
The highlights, right?
And then I watched my first Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I realised what the highlights were literally that, highlights of stopping and starting. I'm like, you're talking, the closest sport we've got to it is probably rugby.
Yeah.
And you're talking from a sport when like a guy gets speared like in half and the ball taken off him and they get up and keep running, like you don't stop at something like that. So hey, Humor Whittle, one of our friends from over 1Geek411.
Nice. We were just talking about you guys.
Yeah, we literally just talked about you guys coming in last week. Again, thank you for that. We did a shout out in the chat. Go and check out their Twitch channel, which is now kicking off the ground. Going to be doing similar to us. I think it's on Monday nights they're going to be keeping it and recording their podcast. So absolutely go and check that. Over twitch.tv/1geek411. But yeah, so like I watched the first game and like it was good. It was good watching a Super Bowl. It was good being part of it. I watched a bunch of them. I've watched a few Super Bowls now, but like getting into football itself, it's not something I can do. Like I don't like the stopping and starting. But UFC 100% my sport. Like I'm good for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No worries, man. No worries. It's like
I grew up like it was just me and my mom basically growing up, and she was not a sports fan. So in turn, I turned out not to be a huge sports fan. But again, I love UFC, and Ads just said he loves NHL. I've been to a couple hockey games, local hockey games, and they're a ton of fun.
See, Ads has told me about this. Like I've talked with Ads. We're actually friends on Facebook, and he said that to me, suggested me to check out hockey. I did watch a little bit on ESPN Plus. Obviously, it's an older game because the hockey's not on right now, or I think it's just starting back or something. And I watched it. And it was actually decent. I'm like, I'm willing to give it a go. Like, this seems more my pace. Like, it's more like, let's keep the game going. Let's keep going. The guy gets his face smashed into the sideboard.
It's like soccer meets rugby, but with a puck.
Yeah, it's like, guy gets smashed into
football.
Guy gets smashed into a sideboard, has his face completely caved in, and he's told to get up and scare it off. It's I can get into that. But it's like, but 100% UFC fan. I love MMA. I got totally into it, and I'm excited it's back. Like, we've only had a couple of events so far from them, and I'm like, I'm ready for more. I'm glad that UFC's definitely back. All right, let's delve into some actual comic book stuff. We have literally been on for almost 15 minutes, and we have talked about sports.
We must have needed it.
Apparently, I've never needed a sports talk in my life, but apparently that happened today, so okay, we're gonna... But yeah, so today, guys, we are finally back. Hey, John, how's it going, man? Saying hi, guys, how we doing? Yeah, doing absolutely good, man. You literally just missed us talking a bit about sports, but we're now, like, actually delving in, so you've not missed anything, really.
Sports, can you believe it?
We talked about UFC, which, like, for a bunch of you, I know you're all fight fans as well. We're UFC fans, and talking a little bit about the new game and stuff. UFC 4 coming out, excited for it. Definitely want to check it out. All right, so this week this is actually the rescheduled podcast from a few weeks ago, because we were literally meant to do this a few weeks ago, and then we had the family emergency, and I went to the ER, and all this other stuff happened, so we cancelled the podcast. So this is following that. We then had Dr. Bell on talking about the Minion,
which was awesome.
Which was an amazing one. If you've not seen that conversation, go and check it out. The guy's amazing. And Mark Stansel as well from Terminus Media. Both of them brilliant guys. Really glad we got that opportunity. We still need to set up for Dr. Bell to come back and just go into an art rant with you.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, so that was an amazing one. And then last week, obviously, Nitro wasn't here. So for anyone who's just coming in as well, Nitro's back. He's back this week, so we'll give him a shout out. He is here. He is live with us today, and then he's disappearing for another 2 weeks. So, you know, Cheery is back, and then boo excessively. You know,
Boo. The lady from Princess Bride.
boo.
Boo. My brother always sends me that meme. Oh, it's hilarious.
Can't be Princess Bride. Special shout out to Max from the Infinity Bros, who I know doesn't like that movie.
He loved the Princess Bride.
Infinity
just go give him a shout
Bros.
out and just share your Princess Bride love with him, because I'm sure he would love to hear it.
But yeah, last week we had One Geek 411 and with me. I was going to say and with us, but they were in with me. I had 3. I was outnumbered for the first time ever on this podcast as the only one from here, with 3 other people on. We talked about the MCU Phase 2, and we had a blast. They're an amazing group. If you've not heard their podcast, you can get One Geek 411 on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out their Twitch channel, as I've said. Absolutely brilliant group of people, and with some interesting conversation, because like Nigel and I agree on a lot of stuff with the Marvel movies, so it usually ends up being us ranting at stuff. But we actually had some conversations because they had some different perspectives, some different views. Chris didn't think that, you know, the Winter Soldier was in the top 5 movies, and I bit my tongue. Kind of. Love you, Chris. But yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks, but I'm glad to have Nitro back. I'm glad we can finally get back into this one. Iron Man 3 did nothing wrong for the first hour.
I agree.
For the first hour.
It was a fantastic movie.
Only thing that they did wrong, and I did mention this in last week's podcast, was literally if you took out Killian and took out the chick that created Extremis and just had Ben Kingsley be the Mandarin, not Trevor Slattery, just the Mandarin, it literally changes nothing. Those villains have literally no bearing. You could literally just change how he gets Extremis and have him be the Mandarin, and everything else would still play out the same.
Yeah, and I think they kind of tried to readdress it like in a short film. The King is Back, I think is what it was called. And I'm like, see, you know, you messed up when you have to do that.
Well, that's why
they know they messed up.
Well, that's actually why in Shang-Chi, like, they're having the Mandarin and the 10 rings show up, because it's like, we need to do the Mandarin right.
Speaking of, have you seen the behind-the-scenes photos?
I was actually just about to do that. Let's jump into our news, because that's actually part of it. Is production has restarted on Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings. People are back there, and it's Australia they're doing it in, if I'm right. Are back there. They're building sets. Apparently, all the actors are back out there, so they're getting ready to begin the filming process again. So the MCU is back into production now.
Thank the Lord.
They're still working out like the details of the releases and everything, as far as I know. Because obviously everything's been pushed back. You know, like Black Widow's not coming out to the end of this year, and it should be out on like Blu-ray and DVD at this point.
Yeah.
Or digital release if you're not an old man like me that still says Blu-ray and DVD.
I'm still waiting on that Eternals trailer.
Yeah, Eternals trailer. I'm pretty sure we mentioned that last time we were on stream together, and that was like 2 weeks ago. It was meant to be coming out in July, and we still don't have it.
From my understanding, it was supposed to be attached to Black Widow, and Black Widow was supposed to come out like 4 months ago. So it had to have been done. I mean, where is it?
Yeah, it's done.
On,
just drop it.
Come on.
But yeah, Shang-Chi's back in production, which I'm glad for. Like, I'm not massively excited for Shang-Chi, but I'm getting the kind of vibe of that I did for like Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man. Like, these are like, this is a character not many people know, but we've seen what Marvel's done with it in the past. So
yes. So I don't know a ton about Shang-Chi the character, but I grew up watching kung fu movies. And I feel like they're going that type of route, like Bruce Lee, because they've referenced Bruce Lee multiple times in the press lead up. So I for one am excited about that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to go that sort of direction with it, and that's interesting, and that's definitely a big thing for you. I know you're a big kung fu man. We talked about it, and last time you were on the news, like you were excited for the Usagi Yojimbo series coming to Netflix and stuff like that, and so I think Shang-Chi will definitely be up your alley. I wasn't as big into kung fu movies growing up. I do like it. I love martial arts movies and stuff, so I'm definitely excited to see what they do with it in the Marvel thing. So
what's up, Bat?
Oh, Bat, hey, Bat, it's been a while since you've been in chat live, man. Good to see you, bro. Thank you for coming in.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ross.
No. You're absolutely fine, man. If you chat come in, definitely nab them. So we do have another couple of news things apart from that. There's nothing much else from that because like they're just rebuilding sets at the minute. So production started. That's it.
Slow news week.
Yeah. Another trailer has just dropped. I think it was like yesterday it dropped for a new Batman animated movie, Batman: Death in the Family.
Oh yeah.
Obviously the death
reading about that.
The death of Jason Todd and all this. What I didn't realize until I watched the trailer, because I hadn't read anything about it yet, I just knew the trailer had dropped, so I watched it earlier today. It's an interactive movie. You get to pick what happens, which I really kind of am intrigued with, because I've tried doing this with a lot of things. We've seen that with a few things, like Netflix is doing it a lot, like the pick your own adventure stuff. We've seen that with their was it Black Mirror's Bandersnatch?
Yeah.
The pick your own adventure sort of thing. But sorry, Bat saying I can't chat much. I'm just listening. I'm driving up north, going camping, so I'm listening to the show. Awesome, man. Thank you for tuning in while you're on your drive, man. I hope your camping goes well, and better you than me. I am not a camping person at all. I do not survive alone in the woods. It turns into like Blair Witch Project. If I have to go into the woods, it's not going to go well. But yeah, so like Death in the Family is like it's an interactive story. Which, if you don't know, the Death in the Family story took place in the 80s, I believe. And it was with the second Robin, Jason Todd, back when he was Robin, was captured by the Joker and basically beaten to death, or beaten with a crowbar and left to die in an explosion. But fans got the option to phone in. There was 2 phone lines, because back in the 80s that's what you did. There was phone lines for votes, and you phoned one number to vote to let him die, and you voted another number to let him live.
Yeah.
And
of course.
And people phoned in to let him die. They wanted rid of him. They hated him. Jason Todd was hated as Robin.
Yeah.
I hate him as Robin. He doesn't work. The only good thing about it is he became Red Hood. Like, as Robin, he sucked. So they let him die, and that's what led to his death, Batman's biggest regret and loss, which led to the Red Hood stuff. But they're playing into that. So there's actually 3 options for this. So it's like you can either have Robin die, you can have Batman save him, or you can have Robin escape himself. Like just before the bomb goes off. So I'm like, okay, like I'm intrigued, and it shows you stuff that's to come. Like you see Jason coming back looking very hushed with like the bandages around his head in some scenes. And then there's clips of him in the red helmet hood, which I'd like to point out, those clips of him as Red Hood in the trailer are 100% from Under the Red Hood.
You think?
No, they are. Like, I recognize the scenes, like the scenes of him jumping and cutting Batman's line and all that stuff. It is literally from Under the Red Hood. Because I thought the animation looked the same. If you look at the animation on Joker in this trailer and in Under the Red Hood, it's the same animation. So it's tying into Under the Red Hood.
I like that. You know,
I'm not officially saying it, but
like
I'm like, yeah, that's definitely like a prequel to Under the Red Hood.
I've had Under the Red Hood in my Amazon cart for at least 2 months.
Dude, just buy it. It's worth it.
I know, dude. It's only $10. I'm gonna get it.
It's worth. If you have not seen the Under Red Hood animated movie, to this day it is my favorite DC animated movie.
Yeah, I saw it a while back, and it made a really big impression on me. So
it's so good. So I'm excited for this to see what they do with it. Just because I'm excited for them taking a plunge into something new, like having it, because like it's going to be released on digital, but they said on digital they don't have the interactive feature because like just the way it's set up. On the Blu-ray, it's going to have the interactive stuff. So try and pick it up in Blu-ray and try out the interactive stuff. Where I'm probably going to do that and just kind of see what it's like and how it plays out. And there you go. Ad saying he watched it 2 days ago and enjoyed it. Like, yeah, man, it's such a good movie. It's so well done.
Yeah, I think my top 2 DC ones, or maybe not top 2, but one of the top 2 that come to my mind are Escape from what's the one with the Suicide Squad in it where they're in Arkham Asylum?
Oh, Assault on Arkham.
Assault on Arkham, that's it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good one.
Under the Red Hood. Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah, that's a really good one as well. My favorite, apart from Under the Red Hood, is probably Flashpoint Paradox.
Oh yes, that's another one.
Flashpoint Paradox, beautiful animated movie. That's what makes me scared for the live action Flash movie. Is like, you've already done a movie version of it that's perfect, and it's like you're not gonna catch lightning in a bottle with that twice. You know, no pun intended, but yeah.
How dare you?
I know. I made a lightning pun for the Flash. I know I feel dirty.
You are definitely a dad.
Dude, what was my excuse before then? I've been making dad jokes since I was like 12. It's like, no, at least I've got an excuse now.
Dude, I have so many dad jokes in my head right now that I could just...
I know.
I won't.
No, behave. Family show. Apparently, at least we keep telling ourselves that. I don't know if we still are.
Maybe, hopefully.
We try. But yeah, so that was an interesting one that came out. Probably the biggest one that came out recently, last week, just after last week's show, was rumor that we have a casting for the Hawkeye show coming to Disney Plus. Haley Steinfeld is apparently been cast for Kate Bishop, who, if you don't know, was basically the Hawkeye of the Young Avengers in the comics. She was like Hawkeye's protege, and then recently in the comics, Clint Barton dropped the Hawkeye name and just goes by Clint Barton.
Yeah, and if Haley Steinfeld isn't ringing a bell, she played in Bumblebee. She's
in Bumblebee. She was Emily Dickinson in the Dickinson TV show, was the most recent big thing she was in. And she was the voice of Gwen Stacy in Into the Spider-Verse.
Really? I did not know that.
Yep, she was the voice of Gwen Stacy in Into the Spider-Verse, so she's no stranger to superhero things, although this will be her first time doing it live action, so...
Yeah.
I'm up for it. Like, I think
man.
she could be a decent job. I mean, like... Cool. I've not seen anything that she was in it that was, like, overly, like, oh, she's a bad casting for it. Like, I'm open for it. I'm like... Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what they do with this show. Because I still feel like he's so underutilized.
Yeah, like, I mean, I said it last week when we talked about the MCU too. That was one of my favorite things about Age of Ultron, which a movie I'm not a massive fan of, was that we got so much Hawkeye. Like, I love Hawkeye's character in the MCU. I'm all up for getting more Hawkeye.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like even in Endgame, where they went the Ronin route until the very end with the Clint and Natasha stuff, I'm like, man, I feel like he was just such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, they deserve to do more with him, and I'm all up for him getting his own show, and I'm all up for him and having Kate Bishop come in and getting to explore it. And I'm a big Jeremy Renner fan. I think Jeremy Renner's a great actor. So like, I'm all up for him continuing to play Hawkeye as long as he wants. So that's a show I'm definitely excited for. But Haley Steinfeld is definitely still a rumor at this point. There's been no official word from Disney or Marvel yet, so we'll see how that plays. But a lot of people are like reporting the rumor now, like it's starting to get around, so very soon we'll probably get a word if it's true or not, because a lot of people are starting to talk about it now.
On a total side note, do we know when the Disney Plus shows are dropping, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and Loki?
I think Falcon and Winter Soldier, they either are finishing up production or they just finished recently, because the last bit of their season was cut short because of the coronavirus shutdown. So I think they're finishing it up now.
Got it.
Either that or it's just finished up. So I would say probably end of the year, start of next year with the Sinistry, I'll see that, and that's meant to be the first show.
Yeah. Okay.
WandaVision will probably come next year some point.
Got it.
So anything else, goodness knows at this point. But other big things, just like little announcements, not massive things. Yesterday was apparently Spider-Man Day.
Who knew?
Apparently
everybody.
Well, I didn't until I went to Twitter and it was trending like Spider-Man Day. Yeah, August 1st is Spider-Man Day. Woohoo! And I'm like, when did that happen? Like, quick, find Spider-Man pictures to post. So apparently yesterday was Spider-Man Day. So happy Spider-Man Day to everybody, or happy post Spider-Man Day. Yeah, why not? Spider-Man's a big enough pop culture icon at this point. Yeah, give him a Spider-Man Day.
So isn't it an official holiday?
No, it's like when whatever date they go like that.
It's like Grandparents' Day. I mean, it's like it's a holiday, but not really.
It's not an official day, but apparently we've just decided that August 1st is Spider-Man Day, so like cool. Also yesterday there was a celebration from James Gunn, because yesterday marked the 6th anniversary of the release of Guardians of the Galaxy. The first Guardians of the Galaxy movie dropped in August 1st, 6 years ago, so in 2014. So yeah, that's exciting. I can't believe it's been 6 years since we got Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Again, still one of my favorite MCU movies. I love Guardians.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was walking into. I was like, I have no idea what to expect. So I knew nothing. I mean, I had one Guardians of the Galaxy comic. And the only character that it had in it, I think, that was on the lineup was Star-Lord. But I had never opened it. I had never read it. I was like, what is this trash?
Dude, even if you'd read Guardians of the Galaxy prior to the movie, you'd no idea what you were walking into.
True.
Like, they completely changed it, because they used to be like a space police sort of thing. And then they like completely changed everybody's character, and literally everyone went, yeah, we like them like that. Like, okay, Marvel Comics, change every one of them. They ended up with like Tony Stark syndrome of like forget everything you saw before the movie. Now in the comics, he is Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
It was the same with Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, it's like Star-Lord is now Chris Pratt basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
Star-Lord's origin is completely different too. Yeah, like Star-Lord's not like the son of like Ego, the living planet and stuff. He is half alien, but it's like Jason of
Star Fox or no? Was
no
that it?
no that's
No.
a different one. That's like he's related to Thanos, I believe. But it's like Jason. I've completely forgot where
Wait
he's
a minute. Isn't
from.
Star Fox like a Nintendo game? Never mind. What am I talking about?
Oh no, there is a Marvel character called Star Fox as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was
It's
tripping
like
for a second.
I'm gonna say like good deep dive. That's like one that nobody knows about, and you're just like Star Fox. I can pull
Yeah.
names too. Um, Let me see what else did we have, and then yep, the only other big news we had for this week was on Friday, Umbrella Academy season 2 dropped. So if you're a fan of the Umbrella Academy comics or TV show on Netflix, second season of it dropped. I absolutely binge watched it in a day, so I liked it. I would have like a big approval on it.
I still haven't finished the first season, but I saw the opening for season 2 on Twitter, and it looked awesome. It
Yeah,
looked awesome.
it's a really great continuation of it. If you want to hear more about talking about Umbrella Academy, on next week's show, officially confirmed, we have one of our previous guests, Lewis Southard,
Nice.
coming back on to guest host with me because Nitro's going to be out of town again. And we talked about each other, and we decided, yeah, we're going to talk about the Umbrella Academy season 1 and 2.
Nice.
Because he's a fan of it in the comics and stuff, so we're going to do a little bit talking about that next week. And for anyone in the chat that's not had the chance to read into it, then we'll definitely give you the opportunity to watch it and catch up before we go into it, because we'll be talking full spoilers, because why not? I hate when people do that. We're going to talk about the show, but we're not going to give spoilers to anyone. Just wait and give people a chance to watch it and then just go. Like, because I'm not going to be responsible for spoiling it for any of you. Next week, if you come in, spoilers everywhere. Just for
Just
warning you.
everywhere.
I'm just for warning you. Like, I will literally open it up. I will open it up with the biggest spoilers just to prove a point next week, you know?
You have been warned.
Yep. So like in the chat we've got. Did you ever see the comics when Venom attached to Groot and as? Yeah,
I haven't.
yeah. Like one of the Guardians of the Galaxy run. I believe it's when what's his face, Flash Thompson has Venom. He joins the Guardians for a while, and Venom kind of like jumps from member to member at one point. So you get like Groot and Rocket and all this in the Venom symbiote. Very
That's
cool.
hilarious.
Very cool story. El Tommy confirming for you. Yep, Star Fox, Nintendo 64.
Yeah, there we
Rocking the
go.
old Nintendo 64. Still one of the best consoles I've ever had.
Ever.
With some of the best games I've ever played.
Yep.
Don't give me your graphics crap on it and all this. Like, still some
Turok.
amazing games.
Come on, Turok.
Turok,
Goldeneye.
GoldenEye, Super Mario 64. Like, come on.
Dude.
Like, some of the best games ever. What else saying? Umbrella Academy season 2, really good. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal season. I loved. I literally like. I was only going to watch like half of it, like, because it came out on the Friday, and I started watching it while I was at work because like we're not getting a lot of calls now. So like I'm watching it in between calls and all that stuff, and I was going to like go to the end of my shift, watch about maybe half of it, like the 10 episodes. I thought I'll watch the first 5. I can do that over my shift. But then in my shift, I've watched up to like episode 7 or 8, and I'm so hooked at this point. Like I need to see how this ends. I need to see how this finishes. So I ended up watching it like 2:33 in the morning.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I get off work at like midnight anyway, so it's like I need time to wind down. So like I just watched that while I'm doing it. El Tommy says I'm about to binge Umbrella Academy. My cousin sold me on it last night. Yeah, Tommy, like if you've ever trusted me on anything, brother, trust me on this. Umbrella Academy is phenomenal. I love the comics. I'm a huge fan of the comics. I love the TV show. 100%, it is worth checking out.
So how does it line up with the comics, Cross, in your opinion?
Very vaguely. Like, very vaguely.
Really?
There's definitely, it takes from the comics. Like, the main elements that come from the comics is, like in the first one, you get, like, the introduction and all the stuff, and the lead up to the big finale is all very much the same. I'm not going to go into too spoilers for it in case people haven't seen them yet. In the second one, a lot of it takes place in the 1960s, and round about the JFK assassination, like round about 63.
Yeah.
Again, not spoilers. If you look at the front cover of the comic, it is literally called Dallas. It's and the whole trailers are all 1960s based, so you can work it out from that.
Yeah.
So I'm not spoiling anything that's the period it takes place in. But in terms of stuff, like it does its own story. Like the comics go ball to the wall crazy with stuff. They really do. Like they go absolutely all out with stuff. They go it's a superhero story, but they're also like, especially in the show, they're pretty crap at what they do. Like they're not great heroes.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole first one is like, hey, the apocalypse is coming. We have to stop it. Like,
yay.
And like, but again, that's in the trailers. Not spoiling anything, but saying that that's literally the setup for the first season. Is like, hey, the apocalypse is coming. But like, yeah, so they're kind of, it's following the story of this family. They're like, the whole thing of it is that they were all born to different mothers at the exact same time on the exact same day. But the mothers who gave birth to them weren't pregnant that day. Something happened, and these women all gave birth, and an eccentric billionaire like adopts 7 of them, and creates the Umbrella Academy to train them for to protect the world from something that's coming. But he won't tell anybody what this apparent something is. So you're like, is there something coming he knows about, or does he just not really have a clue?
Yeah,
just as something,
or just a crazy old guy.
But the comic goes crazy with all this stuff, and it's like the show doesn't delve into some of it, but it takes the story in different directions, and it makes sense for the show.
Cool. So it's kind of its own thing almost.
Yeah, so it's like it's definitely something that's up my alley. Like, I love superhero stuff, and I love superhero stuff that subverts the usual superhero story, and it's not completely like off kilter, but it's like it's on that edge where you're like, this feels a bit weird and uncomfortable at times, but just let your brain go with it, and honestly, you'll have a blast. It's a lot of fun. I love the Umbrella Academy stuff, and they set up great going into another season, so they're obviously expecting another season to come out of it. Which I really hope they get, and from the reviews that everyone's kind of giving it, it looks like they will do. I mean, everybody's talking. I've heard like no negative stuff about it so far.
Yeah. Cool.
If you do delve into the comics, be prepared for a weird direction, and that's just Gerard Way and the way he writes. Gerard Way, obviously, if you recognise that name, it might be from My Chemical Romance. The lead singer of My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way. He's the one that created and wrote Umbrella Academy.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I think you might have told me that at one point. I forgot, though.
Very possibly. But yeah, it's the show's worth checking out. As I said, we'll go into it next week. I don't want to go too far into it. It dropped on Friday. It's brand new out. There's 10 episodes each season. That's 20 episodes, so it's like not even the length of a full normal season on TV.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's like most of us are still at home quarantined. You've got the chance to binge it. This is your time. Binge Umbrella Academy. Alright, I think that was our last big thing for the news this week.
Word.
Literally nothing major happened this week. Let me do some shout out stuff, because I completely forgot to do this at the start. I forgot to do our usual housekeeping stuff. So you may have seen me sipping on some coffee. As the show goes on, we are of course sponsored right above Nitro over there, by our sponsor company, Gamer Grind Co. Let me throw that in the chat. Did that pop up in chat? Yes, it did. So click on that link to head over to Gamer Grind if you want to get some amazing coffee. I absolutely adore this coffee. Try it out for yourself. Use Comics in the Cross at checkout. Save yourself 5%. You can get yourself 10-ounce bags, 16-ounce bags of tons of flavors. Some of them you can request what roast you want on it, if you want it light, medium, dark. Some are specific, but most of them you can kind of ask for. Definitely go and check it out. The coffee, you will not be disappointed. I've been drinking this since we got them as a sponsor, like back in April, and I've not been disappointed drinking their coffee. Every new flavour I try is awesome. I absolutely love it. And while you're there, also pick up some Comics in the Cross merchandise. We have a mug available there, as well as a sticker that's available for purchase, so go ahead and check that stuff out. Speaking of merchandise, I want to throw this one up as well. Where is it? My Teespring one. There it is. Head over to our Teespring store, where you can pick up some amazing merchandise, like the Comics in the Cross t-shirt.
Boom.
That I am actually wearing. I finally got to pick up one for myself. It's ridiculous.
Representing.
It's been like 5 months. So yeah, let me stand up a little bit, show you. This is ridiculously good quality.
I was waiting for a pair of leggings, dude.
No, not the leggings yet, man. We'll get you sporting them. Don't worry, man. But yeah, you can head over to our store. You can get the t-shirt. You can get a hoodie with the Comics in the Cross logo on it. You can get leggings. You can get kids tees, baby onesies. Also, you can get the Fight Night poster from our Fight Night episode that we did. All available there on Teespring.
Yep.
And we have tried to lower the cost as much as possible. On Teespring, you have to have a certain amount of payment on it, because the payment you pay for that actually pays for it being on the Teespring store and then making it. So it has to make some sort of profit, but I have tried to minimize the profits that we actually get as much as possible, so you guys can get it for a good price. And we're also looking for other stuff to go up on the store. Hint, hint, Nitro. Hint, hint.
All right.
I've only been saying it for a while, so I'm just,
I know, my bad.
So yeah, we're hoping to get some more stuff up there. Like, I'm hoping to put together a Comic Clan t-shirt to go up there for the community. Hoping to get some more stuff to go up there. But yeah, go and check it out. Let's see what else we've got. We've got our go and check out our YouTube channel that I'm putting up in the chat there. If you want to catch up with any of our previous episodes, like the crossover we did last week, we are now on episode 18 of this, which is absolutely insane. I can't believe we're at episode 18.
Nuts.
You want to check out the previous 17 episodes, then head over to our YouTube channel. They are all archived there for viewing. Go over there, and even if you're not going to go and like watch through all the archive stuff, if you've seen the episodes, do us a favor. If you've got a YouTube channel, go over there and drop a subscribe. Help that channel grow, because if that channel starts to grow over on YouTube, it helps us get more exposure, brings more people to the Twitch brand to see the show live, which is what we're really trying to grow.
We have a full work week worth of content, so no excuse.
Exactly, we got a ton of stuff up there, man, and to keep the conversations going on online, you can go to our social media pages, or over to our Discord. Add us on there. We last week hit 300 followers on Instagram. Yesterday we hit over 250 on Twitter. So thank you so much to everyone that's following us on there. Go ahead and check those out, and go and be part of our family over in Discord. And if you want to keep finances coming in here for us to do what we do and to expand the show, then you can either subscribe to the channel for at least $4.99 or through Amazon Prime for free, or you can follow us on Patreon and support us for as low as $2 a month over there, and we absolutely appreciate any financial support that you want to give towards the channel. Alright, I think I got everything. Is that everything?
Yeah, I think it's everything out of the way.
Sweet.
Not out of the way. That sounded wrong. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
I think you know what I meant.
Yeah, the stuff we need to kind of throw out
now
there.
The dumb stuff out of the way. We can talk about what we really want.
Well, it's getting the stuff out the road. It's basically like, hey, this is a business. We need to get our actual business stuff out there. So
yeah,
I need to mention it. But okay.
Yeah.
News is out the road. Housekeeping out the road. Let's delve into it.
Let's do this.
Talking about part 3 of our early 2000s Marvel movies. Talking about Daredevil, Elektra, and Ghost Rider.
The top 3 Marvel movies ever made.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No doubt about it.
Not
up there with Winter Soldier.
Yeah, not a lie at all. I mean, these are cracking movies. These are. I don't know, man.
The early '90s Captain America, all of them, right up there.
You know, in that movie, he literally feigns being sick to steal a car from someone twice. In that movie,
I just can't get over the motorcycle helmet. That thing just.
Motorcycle helmet was amazing.
He's got a clear Captain America shield too.
Because of course he does. Why wouldn't he?
Why not?
Why not? But yeah, so like, let's start off with Daredevil. I want to start off with Daredevil because that leads into Elektra, because Elektra, for those of you who might not have seen it, I know everybody saw it. It was such a high-grossing movie that everyone adored. Is actually a sequel to Daredevil. So we're going to start with Daredevil. Full disclosure, when I seen this movie, this came out in 2003. I actually fairly liked this movie when it came out. I don't know if it's because I was going through my kind of teenage rebellious phase. Like, I literally listened to the soundtrack non-stop. The soundtrack on it I thought was amazing. Like, I just absolutely adored it. And I thought the movie was pretty decent. But looking back on it, I'm thinking it was more a case of, cause, you just watch it and take it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's decent. Not thinking through the fact of, like, that doesn't make sense. Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Oh my goodness, he's a murderer. Oh my goodness, you just slaughtered that man with a train. It's like, there's questionable things. But yeah, it sticks pretty close to the main story of Daredevil from the comics. It's like he's a son of battling Jack Murdock, the devil, a boxer who is told to throw a fight, doesn't throw the fight, gets killed because he doesn't throw the fight. While his son had seen him doing a dodgy deal, he runs away, makes a forklift veer off track, which goes into, acid and chemicals that are just out in the open, ready to be pierced by something and fall into a young boy's face.
Just right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, just right in the middle of this, this construction area that's clearly the back of a warehouse, that anybody could run through. Which, I kind of wanted a little nod towards like the comic book origin for it, but I don't think they're ever going to do that in a Daredevil thing. Which is apparent.
What was the original comic one?
Well, the original comic thing is apparently like he gets goop in his eyes and pushing someone out the way of like an oncoming vehicle.
Oh, that's right.
And the unofficial like thing is apparently like that goop that like blinded him and turned him into Daredevil and gave him his powers, then fell into the sewers, which is what ends up creating the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Really?
They actually kind of reference that in the Turtles comic as well. Like, they don't fully say it, obviously, but the scenes are mirrored to look like it, so it's kind of heavily hinted. And like even like the villains,
cool.
like even the villains in the Turtles are called the Foot Clan, which is a gimmick take on the Hand, the Ninja Clan Daredevil fight. So there's a bit of Daredevil influence in the Turtles, which I think's kind of cool. Like that's a crossover I want to see. I know we did Batman in the Turtles. I want to see Daredevil in the Turtles.
Dude, that would be sweet.
Just bring it full circle,
Yeah.
But yeah, so he gets these powers and stuff like that, and he starts freaking out in the hospital, as you would, because like I can't see, but I can also see everything. Yeah, it's we're just going to take it bit by bit because there's no other way to take this movie. What your initial thoughts on it, Nitro? What do you initially think of the movie? And
so I remember seeing it when I was younger. It was 2003, right?
Yeah, 2003.
So I remember. Yeah, so that was 17 years ago.
Yeah, we were just babbies back then.
I was 20, so I guess I wasn't super young.
You were 20.
But yeah, I remember. Yeah, I know, right? I remember seeing it when it came out, and I remember not knowing anything about Daredevil, and I remember saying, I'm sorry. But now knowing what I know and having lived through the Netflix Daredevil show and having actually read some Daredevil comics and stuff. Not a fan of this movie, really. I think there were a lot of things wrong with it. I think they did some things right, but I think there were a lot of things wrong with it. And you had mentioned the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it was like the quintessential early 2000s, every pop rock group that's popular at the time, let's just get them on the album.
Oh, 100%, yeah. 100%.
Evanescence, come on, dude.
Yeah, Evanescence is on there. Hoobastank's on there.
Oh man,
who is it? Is it Rob Zombie's on there?
Fuel, Saliva, Seether, Nickelback.
That's right, Nickelback and Saliva are on there. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah. It's not early 2000s unless Saliva and Nickelback are involved.
I did, full quote out, by the way. I'll be completely transparent in this. I do like Nickelback and Saliva.
I like Nickelback, but
I'm still fans of their music. Don't get me wrong.
Definitely early 2000s.
Oh, 100%.
No question about it.
I have no qualms about the fact of they are definitely set in their time period of the early 2000s. But yeah,
and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, before we started. But I think the movies of this time period, I don't think they had been able to nail the tone correct.
Oh no,
for movies. I feel like this movie wanted to be really, really funny, and then I feel like when they were trying to be serious, they didn't take themselves that serious, and it felt like a weird tone.
They were trying to be serious, and then they
prison.
tried to interject humor at points, and if you go back and watch it, it doesn't land.
One of the scenes, because I was rewatching some recaps of it, because I've seen it multiple times.
Oh yeah.
So I was watching some recaps of it, and there was that part where Bullseye goes to the airport and he's going through the metal detector, and he looks at the dog, and then he stares the dog down, and then the dog backs. I'm like, really? Come on now. How cheesy is that?
I again, full disclosure, I'm not gonna lie. I know he's horrifically campy and awful, but I kind of love Colin Farrell as Bullseye.
If it wasn't for massive tattoo on his forehead,
it's not even a tattoo. Remember, it's literally a scarred target. Like he's cut this into his head.
Just in case you didn't know who I was.
Which I love the fact he even does it. Like we get it, you're Bullseye. Congratulations, you threw it and hit the target. We get it. He plays it so campy, and for some reason, of all the times he chooses to do his normal Irish accent over playing an American one, he decides to play Bullseye as Irish for no reason, except so they can play House of Pain's I may be Irish, like I may be Irish, but I'm not a leprechaun. And this is the band that done like Jump Around, the other quintessential 90s and 2000s. Like, I'm in middle school. It sounds like a rap song. Yay, it's not.
Yeah.
They decided to play that, but like he's so campy and over the top. I kind of love him. I know it's not really. I know it's not a real thing of Bullseye, but there's something just so campy about him. I'm like, he's magnificently bad in the same way like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze is bad, but I kind of love it.
See, I can't. Oh man, I don't know. I can't do it. I'm not saying that the Bullseye in Daredevil Netflix show was better. He was better.
He was better. I feel
like that was a missed opportunity. That's a totally separate subject.
But don't get me wrong. I don't think Colin Farrell's Bullseye is good by any means. He isn't.
He's not good.
No, he is awful. But it's so campy and over the top. I can't help but kind of love it at the same time.
Okay, I can respect that. I can respect where you're coming from.
But no, it's not a good interpretation of Bullseye by any means. No.
Does anybody have a ankle length reptile leather jacket that I can wear? That's the one there.
And that is 100% the kind of leather jacket I would probably have worn in my teens if I could have wore it. I was about 15 or 16 when this movie came out, and I 100% probably would have wore that.
How much more early 2000s can you get? I mean,
yes, ads. He kills an old lady with a peanut.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot
this poor little sweet old lady next to him in the plane is like, I kind of love his look of fear. As she's just rambling on, he's looking at her like.
I totally forgot about that part.
And it's like he just opens a packet of peanuts and flicks it, bounces it off the chair in front and into her throat, and then he just like puts her head back like she's sleeping, and I'm like, that's a weirdly dark comedic scene, that one.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, the tone is just all over the place. Like, even when they're trying to be serious, it's like way too much humor.
Oh yeah, and it's like, and his character is one of the worst offenders for it, like, because he plays it so campy and so over the top.
Yeah.
Like, he's so like theatrical about it, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like it doesn't quite fit the dark tone they're going for. Like, because like I said, like if we go to like to Ben Affleck's Daredevil, like even from the get go, like we kind of get a little hint of him as Matt Murdock. We get him as a lawyer, and the guy gets let off that they're trying to put away. But like then he goes into Daredevil mode that night, and like he invades this bar, he beats the crap out of all these villains, chases the guy he's after down to a train station, and like basically knocks him off the platform, and there's an oncoming train, and he just stands there and watches this train come and like murder this guy. And it's like, how can you have that campy over the top Bullseye in the same movie where you're having a legitimate Daredevil murdering people?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't even like it's an accidental. He knocked him off and the train's coming. No, he knocked him off and the lights at the end of the tunnel. And he watches it just come in and just...
It's like that scene, I forgot what movie it was, but somebody's on the ice. It's a comedy. Somebody's on the ice and there's a Zamboni coming and he's screaming and the Zamboni's like 50 feet away and it keeps coming and he keeps doing a close-up of the dude screaming. Oh, man. I forgot what movie that was.
Oh, it's so good, man. It's so freaking good.
So I will say... Can I just say that I feel like Ben Affleck for this entire movie, he just looked bored, like out of his mind.
Yeah, like there's scenes like I don't know if that's meant to be his blind person face, like because if you watch him, like even in the first real scene we see him, it's him coming out of like the sensory deprivation chamber, which I thought was a really cool idea personally. Like Matt Murdock going into a sensory deprivation chamber to rest, because like it blocks out like sound, it blocks out sight, it blocks out all these other things that your senses pick up on, and just something that can help block out what he feels on a daily basis. Because like Charlie Cox obviously talks about it, and it's his Daredevil. Like the one that always rings with me is when he's talking to Stick and says he sleeps on satin sheets because cotton feels like sandpaper against his skin. So like having a sensory deprivation booth, I was kind of like, that's actually kind of an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
Also as well, all the fact of that they brought a blind person on set to help with things. So like even when he's taking money out, like his little thing, and he folds the notes in different ways.
Are you talking about the Netflix one? Right?
No. This is in Daredevil, the movie.
Oh, that's right.
He folds money in different ways, and he said that's a trick that blind people use so they know what bill they're pulling out. in their wallet and stuff, which I thought that's really cool.
Yeah,
Except for the
that is
fact that
cool.
Matt Murdock would know what Billy's pulling out, so wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, because he could feel it.
Because he could literally feel it, or like he could literally hear sound waves bounce off it and read what
Yeah,
it says. You know, it's like, I guess to try and keep up appearances that he can't, but
yeah,
it was only afterwards I was thinking about that. I was like, he doesn't actually need to do that.
yeah. You're right.
And he probably even need to do it for like keep up appearances, because like would anybody question it? Like ever? You know, it's like, but yeah,
Yeah,
he just
I feel like he was. I don't know if I don't think he was right for the role. Honestly,
he just
I just go back to that. He just looks bored.
he looks so bored. He sounds so monotone during it. He
Yeah.
just even the fight scenes aren't that amazing. They're not like
No.
great. Like the only worthwhile fight scene really is like him and Bullseye in the church has got some interesting moments in it. It's not a brilliant scene, but like it's got some good parts.
Yeah.
And then him fighting Kingpin is a pretty decent fight scene at the end.
All right, so that I will say something. So I am actually a huge fan of Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, I am for real. I thought he was awesome. Like
Best
obviously he had
casting in
the
that
size.
movie. Yeah,
Like,
best
he
casting in
had
that movie, 100%.
He had the swagger of Kingpin. I thought, and I think him and Vincent D'Onofrio play them totally different.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
I like both of them. I like the way
think-
Vincent plays it,
yeah.
and I love the way Michael Clark Duncan played it.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think the Kingpin that we get in the Daredevil show that fits with that fits with the dark tone of that, and also what we get with the MCU. As
Yes.
saying as well, amazing casting. I
Yeah.
don't think Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin would work now with that stuff, because I think the Kingpin role's been changed in variant, and we've seen what Vincent D'Onofrio can do with it. And
it would definitely work for the movie because it was a kind of he was kind of a shallow villain a little bit, but I mean,
Yeah, they didn't give him
physically, you know,
They didn't give him a lot to work with, but what he worked with, he played with it. Even like the putting the rose on them, his conversations with like Bullseye and stuff, just the way he held himself, like going around his office doing business, and then even going into the final fight, like he carries himself so well. 100%. I'm a huge Michael Clark Duncan fan. You know,
I am too.
Rest in peace, big guy. Absolute gut busting loss when he passed away. I love his movies. I've always loved his movies. Like all through the early 2000s, the man appeared in I don't know how many movies. Like he seemed to show up everywhere. From like the Green Mile to, you know, is that the guy is a phenomenal actor, and he was the only role I can look at in this and think, yeah, I'd probably have kept that the same.
Yeah.
Like Ben Affleck, definitely not. He was not a fun Daredevil. He didn't capture Matt Murdock for me. Colin Farrell, like I said, it's a guilty pleasure watching him, but if I had to cast a proper Bullseye, he's not the guy for it.
Well, and I didn't know how much Foggy Nelson I needed in my life until I saw the Netflix show, because I think the dynamics between them two is awesome. I think that makes that show.
Oh yeah,
and
like
now looking back, and seeing Jon Favreau, who I love, in the role, it just didn't work for me.
Oh yeah, I love Jon Favreau. You know, we know him, we love him from the MCU to the Mandalorian to everything he's doing now. The guy's phenomenal. You know, literally, if you watch that, Foggy Nelson in Daredevil is literally Happy Hogan from the Iron Man movies. It's the same character.
It's the exact same person.
It's the exact same character, which to be fair is not really his fault, because Foggy Nelson in Daredevil doesn't get screen time like at all. We get like no screen time at all for him. He barely interacts. Do you know Karen Page is in this movie?
I did not know Karen Page was in this movie. Eldon Henson is a better Foggy. I agree
100% as 100%. Eldon Henson is an amazing Foggy. He was a great casting, which I never thought I'd ever see something I loved him in after Mighty Ducks. Like I literally watched him in the Mighty Ducks movies and thought, I'll never really see him again. And then he became like Foggy Nelson, and it was like one of the best casting choices ever. He was so good.
So I stand corrected. I did know there was a Karen Page. I'm sorry, because when I was researching this for the show, I read about a director's cut, apparently, that exists, that is actually salvages the movie to a point, and there's more Nelson Murdock, and there's Karen Page is in it.
No, she's in the actual...
I mean, she's in it more, rather.
Yeah, like the actual movie she appears, but literally it's a scene where they go to Nelson and Murdoch's like law office, which if you didn't know that was their law office, you won't know that's where they went. Because they never tell you they've gone back to their office. It just looks like another room in the courthouse. And there's a blonde chick sitting at one of the tables that doesn't even have a line. You know Karen Page, you know, one of the big love interests in Daredevil's history in the comics, a massive part of the connection of Nelson and Murdoch, a massive part of the Daredevil story. Yeah, it's that blonde chick over there with no lines. It doesn't appear in any other scenes. Yeah, that's her. I'm like,
oh, an established love connection from the comics. No, let's do somebody else.
No, let's bring in Jennifer Garner to play Elektra instead,
and totally just murder the character.
Were they married?
Literally.
Were they married at this point, or did they get married after meeting on this?
I have no clue.
I was like, because I know that Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner end up getting married, but like I don't know if it was before or after this. But can we just talk about how awful she is as an Elektra?
Dude, that fight on the seesaw made me want to break this movie in half.
Dude,
like I wanted to pull the movie out and break it in half over my knee.
Okay, first of all, that fight is so random and out of nowhere. But can I just point out as well, by the way, like, okay, first of all, he's a stalker. He literally chases her out of the restaurant for no reason to try and get her number, which I'm like, dude, even, you tried the blind thing, she said no, deal with it. You tried the, the petty thing, it's not working for you.
Yeah.
He goes out there, and first of all, like, she tried to walk away, and he grabs her arm, and I'm like, okay, Me Too culture, please.
Yeah.
We're getting a bit forceful here. Okay, that aside, how does she respond? She starts the fight. He's blind. She doesn't know. I will
beat the brakes off you.
She doesn't know he's Daredevil. She doesn't know he can do any of that stuff. Like the balancing on the seesaw, the jumping and flipping, the catching, the cartwheel. She doesn't know he can capable of any of that stuff. I'm like, all that, for all she knew, that was going to turn into like a blind dude grabbing her and her laying a beat down on some blind dude that can't
beat the brakes off you.
It's like, seriously, and like, are we meant to just ignore the fact that like she just attempted assault on a blind dude that luckily can defend himself? And I'm like, that
just so happens. Yeah,
and then of course once that happens, they don't talk about it. They go for a walk and she starts, narrating her backstory. I'd have had some questions.
Yeah.
Like, cause she even mentions it. Like, he even like stops at one point. Oh, what's your foot in there? And she goes, "Oh, thank you. Wait a minute. How are you doing that? How did you do that back there?" And like, and he just brushes it off. Like, it's such a random like throwaway question that he brushes off and they move on from. And she never comes back. I'm like, no, I'd have some serious questions. You're blind. How the hell did you do any of that?
I would have put my hand on his chest and be like, no, we're stopping right here until you explain what you just did.
You're explaining what the hell just happened and how you could do that as a blind man. I'm like, because like, I don't want to push down a blind man and say the blind man is not capable of that, but it's not something you typically see blind people doing. So I would have some questions. Like, seriously,
Yeah, I feel like that whole romance was so bad. It was so forced.
Yeah, they tried to force it so badly, and it's just... it was done so wrong, especially when you watch again. I don't want to keep harping back to the Netflix one, but like, it is the better version.
I mean, we have to compare it because they're addressing the character, and Netflix just does it so much better.
If you watch season 2, you get to see Elektra, and you get to see the relationship between Matt and Elektra, and how
it's complicated.
Exactly, it's not meant to be easy and straightforward, and
she doesn't have the same like moral values, obviously, as he does.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as when it comes to confronting justice.
Yeah, because like they just totally took out the backstory, the fact of like, yeah, she's a trained assassin. She was trained from this, and she was a little girl, and trained by. Oh yeah, we're getting to that one as definitely, and then they gave her a movie. Like, yeah, they gave her a movie after this because that was like, a great idea.
What was the worst part of Daredevil? Elektra. Let's give her own movie. There we go. We'll redeem it, and we'll totally negate everything that happened in the first movie, the Daredevil movie, to make this new movie. Anyways.
Oh yeah, pretty much. But yeah, like her whole relationship, she's meant to be an assassin, trained from a young age. She's meant to be trained by Stick, same as Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, she's not in the movie because there's no reference to Stick whatsoever.
None.
And the fact that they were trained by him, and I'm like, do you know how big a part he is of his backstory? Like, Stick's like a major player.
Yeah.
Although, in saying that, Stick appears in Elektra. We don't put him in Daredevil, but he shows up in Elektra.
And I know, okay, I have to bring this up since we're kind of broaching it, and I know we're going to get into Elektra in a second. But the entire plot of Elektra revolves around Stick trying to get her to assassinate this family so she can realize she has a good heart.
Is it Stick that's getting her to do the assassinations? Is it him that's calling them? Because they don't
I
make
thought so.
they don't make that clear. Like, stuff just shows up at her house, and apparently she's got an agent for assassinations. She's got an agent that helps her with this because that's what assassins have.
I think Stick is the one who organized all of it, though, because his goal was like, you don't really want to do this.
Okay,
but I'm
so
gonna set this up. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I've got even. All right, let's finish Daredevil because I've got even more questions about Elektra now. That's okay. Yeah, it's a bad movie. It really is.
All right. So one thing I want to say about Daredevil, I'm a stickler for if you have a cowl, like a head covering that goes around your mouth, you got to make it look good, and they do not do a good job on this. It goes over the bridge of the nose, so you can see his little button nose popping out of the bottom of the cowl.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah, I believe it does.
He doesn't have a strap at the bottom.
No. I'm just talking about the way that the cowl is on Ben Affleck's head.
Yeah, because like it literally just sits on a.
It looks
on the head.
So dumb. It looks so dumb. You could have done so much better with that, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and what's his face in this as well? I can't even remember. Okay, let me finish with Elektra before I jump onto him because I'm still talking her. So yeah, so they take out the assassination with Elektra. She's not an assassin. She's not been trained since she was a kid. But don't worry, we'll retcon that in the next one. Because why not? Just her dad had her trained because her mother was killed at a young age. Because why not? Then he gets assassinated by Bullseye. Because Kingpin's like put him up to be the next hit because he won't work along with him.
Mm-hmm.
Bullseye kills him using, Daredevil's staff. Which then of course makes Elektra think, okay.
Didn't he hit him right in the head with it? It's like sticking out of his head.
No, I think it was was it the chest?
Oh yeah,
that's like straight through the chest, and I'm like, yeah, and which of course sends Bullseye into a whole big thing because he tried with other methods and Daredevil made a miss, and he starts like, I don't know what to call it, like a hissy fit when he talks to Kingpin, almost like he made me miss. I'm like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? I know. Yeah. Oh, it's even worse than that. Like when he throws it and it hits it, and then he does like the big sweep with the jacket, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you're like a 1920s villain.
I just can't get over the airport scene where he looks at the dog and he's like, oh my, come on, man. Come on.
He just needs like a twirly mustache. He really does.
Yeah.
Like he's such like an old like vaudevillian
So
villain.
bad.
It's like he really is. It's like you took away my hand. Oh yeah, the church scene. We'll get to that one. Yeah, the crucifixion thing when he's fighting with Daredevil and Daredevil like moves his hands with a stick like in front of the incoming bullet, and it like goes through his hands. It's like my hands. Like, really? Did we need? Was that the pose we had to go for? Like, yes, we're in the church. Okay, I'm like. But yeah, so Elektra decides to train by fighting sandbags, like all good assassins do, and then decides she's capable of like beating Daredevil, which she does. She beats Daredevil. I don't know how she beats Daredevil, this man who's like got these superpowers and has trained for so long. I'm like, you don't want to fight her, like you don't have to get stabbed. I'd like to point out as well, she stabs him with a sai. Those are not meant to be sharp weapons, they're sword breakers. They're not meant to be like sharp.
In every movie, people stab somebody with them. But yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's like they're not meant to be sharp.
They're heavy.
That's not what I've got a pair of sai. Like I got, my friend Cal bought me some.
Yeah.
Like I said, because like we were going through a Ninja Turtles phase and I thought I was Raphael, so like he collects swords, so he got me a set of sai. They're so cool.
Yeah.
But they're heavy like things, they're sturdy. But yeah, so then she decides I beat Daredevil so I can take on Bullseye, which leads to one of the over the top campiest fight scenes probably in the whole movie, of Elektra versus Bullseye, where he blocks with his cape, with his jacket. It's a cape, let's be honest. He catches the sai in his hand, throws it back and stabs her in the hand, and then he kills her with the crappiest effect ever. Like he lifts her up and stabs her through the stomach, and you see the shirt going up. And, like, really, you didn't have effects to put a fake, like, thing at the back of her? Like, you just had the shirt going up at the back to say, look, she's been stabbed through. I'm like,
It's
okay.
going right through. Look, see?
It's like, so she's dead. But, of course, it's a superhero movie, so don't let that stop you doing anything. We get the church fight scene, which is probably just as camp with some really bad CGI, but it was 2003, so it wasn't going to be great.
Dude, the CGI is awful.
Yeah.
The whole movie. It's just so bad.
It is.
I'm looking at a picture of him stabbing her.
Yeah.
And I know this sounds really, like, awful, but the knife is going in one direction and then the shit's popping out of here. Come on, man.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
Oh, that's who else appears in this movie. I keep forgetting. Ben Urich, the reporter.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
Played by Joe Pantoliano, because why not? It's 2003. He's done The Matrix and Bad Boys. Let's get him in here. Joe Pantoliano brought in for literally no reason. Like, he comes into, like, the first Daredevil, like, you know, crime scene, where he lights the double D that's left on the floor on fire, like, to show that it was Daredevil that was here, which I love this random thought of Daredevil, like, not only chasing this guy down, having him murdered by a train, but then took time to write a flammable, like, double D on the floor, just in the hopes that someone would...
First off, he's got to have enough gas to do that, or whatever, expelling, or whatever you call it. And then he's got to literally take like an hour to like precisionally lay out the D's.
But then you got to hope that nobody like decides to smoke a cigarette on like while waiting on the subway line or something, like shh, light a cigarette, throw. Why is that on fire? You know what I mean? Like there's really a lot of precision. So.
Coming from an artistic perspective, I mean those D's
cool.
were like precision.
Yeah,
it
looks cool.
Somebody took a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, it looks great, but it's like, why?
Yeah.
And what's the best way to get the police off your scent? You know, put down a giant double D that could only mean Daredevil. That's a one way to get the police completely off your scent, you know. But then he next appears after the Elektra's dad like gets killed. By the way, shout out to the random like cameo of the coroner. Is Kevin Smith.
Really?
It's Kevin Smith.
I did not know that.
How? Why is Kevin Smith in this movie?
Because he's friends with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, that is literally probably it.
Oh, wow, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah.
You're totally right. That's crazy.
It's Kevin Smith, like literally that friendship with Ben Affleck is like the only reason that he must be in this movie. Like he owed him a favor.
That's literally the only reason.
Which of course Joe Pantoliano, like, you know, because I know it's Ben Urich, but it's Joe Pantoliano. Talks with him.
Of course, he has the beret like backwards.
Yeah,
Joe Pantoliano.
The backwards beret, because you know we're doing every other stereotype. Why not like the New York Italian stereotype to the fullest point? Why not? Which I love the fact that they closed down the Billy Club, and like he turns the top of it, and the walking stick comes out.
Yeah.
You think there'd be better security measures on your main weapon that wouldn't link it back to your persona out of costume?
Think Blade and exploding sword hilt.
Yeah.
Let's go that route, or something similar.
Or here's an idea. Don't make your Billy Club your like walking stick.
Yeah. Where they can get your fingerprints.
Make it a totally different thing. Like, really? Okay.
You're a lawyer, dude. Come on now.
I know. Like, come on, man. But, like, that's it. Literally, he works out from that, oh, it's Matt Murdock. But nothing happens with that. Literally, the only scene he then appears in is right at the end when he wrote this full article about the reveal of who Daredevil is. And he decides to delete it. And when he comes out of his office, he looks up and Daredevil's there and he's, go get him, Matt. So your character had literally no point. You should have been relegated to like one voiceless scene like freaking Karen Page because you had no bearing on this at all.
Yeah.
Either that or somebody had really high hopes for a sequel. But yeah, like, but it ends up he fights Daredevil fights Bullseye in the church. We get the crucifixion scene. After which, the only scene in that I find kind of cool is the fact if he uses the church organ pipes against him.
Yeah, that was cool.
I like that he uses that, and then like when he swings up and smashes the stained glass, and like catches a bunch of it, and it's literally just throwing it at him.
I have that as a con in my list.
I love that because
so
it's like
cheesy. It's so cheesy.
That's one of the cheesy things I love. But I kind of love like you can
it.
play with that. Like he's got enough precision where he can do that.
To be fair, I think in a live action movie or a show, it's going to be really difficult to show Bullseye's power in a non-ridiculous way. I mean, let's be honest. Stuff bouncing off the wall and stuff like that. It's gonna be weird.
It's going to be tough. I would like to see what Netflix did with it if he was given a chance. I wish we'd gotten a season 4 to see.
Even in the Netflix show, like the stuff that he did, where he's throwing his baton off the walls and stuff like that, I was like, that looks kind of weird. I'm gonna be honest.
There's no way not to make it a bit cartoony. Yeah. It's one of those comic book ones where it's like it's going to look a bit silly.
Yeah.
But just run with it, and you can kind of make it work possibly.
Yeah.
But we killed Bullseye, which I love the fact that Bullseye gets his hand shot through, and then it's like just to prove that, which there's a whole running theme in this of like him attacking someone and like a kid like crying about it, and him going, "I'm not the bad guy," in his best Batman voice, you know. But she even does at the end in his fight with Kingpin when he doesn't kill Kingpin, like, "I'm not the bad guy." When he tries to walk away, when literally the scene before he throws Bullseye as hard as he can through that stained glass window where he lands on Ben Urich's car outside the church.
Yeah.
Clearly dead.
Yeah.
And like, are we really still holding on to "I'm not the bad guy"?
You've murdered 2 people in this movie so far.
At least. I'm sure there's more.
Minimum.
And then we get the final fight with Kingpin. Michael Clark Duncan is just such a freaking big, imposing man.
Dude,
like,
awesome.
I love when he sends Wesley out, and it's like it's just the slow unbuckling of the cuffs and the jacket off and the taking off of the shirt, and it's like he just takes his time. He's so calm, so reserved, but he is so big and fast and quick. I think that's the only negative I can say for his fighting style compared to like Vincent D'Onofrio was Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
Is D'Onofrio pulls off the deception more. Like you would look at D'Onofrio and think what you would usually think at Kingpin. It's a big fat dude. What can he do? He's not that big. He's not that quick. He's not that agile. He's just a big lummox and like with Michael Clark Duncan. Like no, there's no fat on that man's body.
He was stacked.
He is built. Like I could believe
his arms were like freaking trash cans.
Like I can believe that dude is also quick and agile and is going to snap me.
And
like,
he's on every steroid out available.
Yeah, like that dude was huge.
Yeah.
But like that's the only like definite positive I think for Vincent D'Onofrio in terms of comparing Kingpins. Like we said, they're both very different, but I love both in different ways.
Yeah, I love them.
D'Onofrio is like definitely portrays that level of I'm not what you think I am.
And I feel like it's worth mentioning, like in this era, like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, and casting choices, and obviously Kingpin in the comics is white, but I thought Michael Clark Duncan is a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And I think, and Kingpin is a very well-known villain. It's not like this. It was a C-list character. This is a very well-known villain for not just Daredevil, but a lot of other characters. And I feel like they got the spirit of the character, which I think is the most important thing.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I looked at that movie and I'm like, oh, sorry, I unplugged myself. Yeah, I looked at that movie and I'm like, I literally can't think of anyone that I would rather play him. Like, I was trying to think of other big actors around 2003 and I'm like, there's no one I can think of that can do what he can do and portray Kingpin in that level, white, black, otherwise. Like, there's not another one that is at that level.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, because say what you want for Vincent D'Onofrio, he's great now, but like, back then, like you're thinking around the era of like Men in Black, and
where he played that farmer.
Yeah, and like Law and Order, was it Criminal Intent?
And Cell, he was in Cell. Yeah.
In Cell, like he was still a little guy. Yeah. He wasn't like big like he is now. Like they play.
Well, and even in real life, like he's not a big dude. He gained a ton of weight for like the Netflix show.
Oh, absolutely. He done an amazing job with that, and I'm like, so he isn't the first choice I would have at the time. I think, you know, Michael Clark Duncan definitely was.
One thing I will say for the movie is I feel like they did a good job. So there was a couple of things that I did like, obviously. I thought the suit was decent. Other than the cowl, which I had an issue with, I thought the suit was decent.
The suit was pretty sweet.
For the time frame, I thought it was decent.
I do like the suit in Daredevil. Like, even the cowl to a certain extent, it's like, I get what you're saying about it. It's weirdly kind of shaped, but overall...
And I had the same... the cowl thing, I had the same kind of gripe with Charlie Cox and the cow in that movie or in that series too. I just like I'm a huge stickler for it, especially in Batman films where it's super prominent. Like
Yeah.
it's got to be perfect. If their face is going to be on screen for an extended period of time, it's got to be perfect. I feel like the black suit did better in the Netflix show because they had multiple layers and you could tell it was going over in his nose and anyway.
Yeah,
I thought the suit was good.
It was definitely played in an interesting way. It was definitely portrayed in a good way in that. I think the Netflix suit's definitely better. I mean, like I said before, I've got it over there. I absolutely adore Charlie Cox's like Daredevil suit. It's spot on.
And I love how they iterate on it in the show. And it's not just iteration for the fact of we need to show a different suit. It's a practical like iteration of the suit.
Definitely.
And I like how the movies was like a lot of the movie was like shot at night. I love it. I kind of like the tone of the movie.
It definitely gets a tone that fits Daredevil because like I always think Daredevil is basically Marvel's Batman. Like
pretty much.
It's that same sort of hunt for justice, taking in bad guys, like going about at night. There's a lot of similarities to it, so like I think it's portrayed well in that.
Yeah.
So I want to do like last thoughts on the movie and then move on, and just because our time's pushing on, and I want to try and at least hit the other two movies, at least get into Elektra. Won't take long.
Oh shoot!
I'm
very interested in Ghost Rider. No, Elektra not so much.
But like last thoughts then on Daredevil. Last overall thought on the Daredevil.
Just not a fan, man. Just not a fan. I think there's too much negative with this movie to me. I'm probably never gonna watch it again. I'm gonna be straight up.
Yeah. Now that the Netflix show is a thing, that's the one I'm going to go back to. That is Daredevil for me.
Yeah,
there's nothing unless I got a really big boost of nostalgia at one point. I'm probably never going to go back and watch it.
For early 2000s pop rock.
Yeah, it's like at the same time, I think if you do want to check this out, there is some positives to it. You know, like definitely, like Kingpin is 100%. Michael Clark Duncan's amazing in this. He's great.
I think some of the agility that they show Daredevil have and some of his powers that he shows, I think they do a really good job with that.
Yeah, portrayal of the powers. Some of the fight scenes are decent. Not all are amazing. I think Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner weren't great choices for casting. Colin Farrell wasn't a great choice for Bullseye, although I do like his campiness to it. It's a guilty pleasure. If you're into that and want to see an Irishman camp up the best he can, one of the biggest assassins in the Marvel universe, then definitely check it out. Oh, Sora, hey man, how you doing? Stupid accent. Forgot why I love and hate watching the podcast. You'll love it. You'll love the accent. You know you do. You know you'll love it, man. I literally went on a podcast and hounded him. He was getting interviewed by somebody. I can't even mind who he was getting interviewed by. And I seen him on there, and just like they were asking questions to Sora Oblivion, and I literally went on and went, "Tell him to speak in a Scottish accent. Tell him to speak in a Scottish accent." I'm never letting this go.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, all right. Let's jump into Elektra.
Ugh. Full disclosure.
I'm not kidding. I watched like stuff to try and get caught up with Elektra again. I have seen the movie once. I watched stuff to try and get caught up with it, and I still think I forgot most of what happens.
Full disclosure. I am not 100% sure I've seen this full movie. I might have when it first came out.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I seen it when it first came out. Like, I never saw it in cinemas or anything like that. It came out 2005. But I went through a period where I was buying like all the superhero DVDs. So Elektra came out and I bought it. I watched it because I wanted to check it out and wanted to see what they did. Like the trailers for this never even interested me that much.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a ton of recaps for it, and even then, I was bored out of my brains. So.
Sort of saying, "Oh, you poor soul, not the greatest movie." It's like, yeah, but that's the fun of looking back in the early 2000s superhero movies. Sora is like they're all bad. They're all like, it's amazing to look how far we've come.
Yeah,
in such a
and
short
I think,
time.
And what we were talking about Sora earlier is I think, and chime in, Cross, if you disagree, but I think the early 2000s and even before that, some of the comic book movies, I think they just struggled tonally. I don't think they knew where to land. Like I don't. They didn't want to go too serious. They didn't want to go too campy. So there's a weird middle ground.
It's not even like they struggled tonally. They just struggled. Period.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
like this Elektra we're talking about came out in 2005. That was literally just 3 years before we got Iron Man and the launch of the MCU. 3 years.
Yeah, Iron Man nailed it on the head. You're right, Sora.
It's like 3 years before we got MCU, and it's just amazing to look at how far one way these movies were until the MCU stepped in. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, don't get me wrong, I'll always give credit to Spider-Man and X-Men for the modern superhero run. I think without them we wouldn't have got the MCU.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think some of these other ones, especially under Fox, they dropped the ball. Which, funnily enough, all of these movies we're talking about today are Fox.
Oh, surprise.
But yeah, so Elektra. This picks up literally as a sequel to Daredevil. It follows Elektra having died and been resurrected. How did she get resurrected?
Right, immediately.
How did she get resurrected?
The entire emotional crux of the first movie was negated in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Legitimately, and it's like, don't get me wrong, I know that's what Elektra does in the comics. Disagree with what, Sora? Need a bit more context to respond to it. But yeah, it's like I guess she dies in the comics and she comes back, and the whole thing with the hand, it's like about Spider-Man. You disagree about Spider-Man?
Oh, and X-Men.
X-Men?
Definitely. Doesn't Sony have Spider-Man though?
Yeah, they did. But
okay.
But yeah, definitely you're okay to disagree with it. That's just my personal opinion. I think like the modern superhero movies started with them. Like personally, that's just my take. Like all the 90s stuff was a certain way, and then X-Men and Spider-Man brought it to the forefront. And don't get me wrong, stuff didn't get it right after that. We also got some great movies like Spider-Man 2 and X-Men 2. Then
one of the greatest minds in comic book movies today, Kevin Feige, he was a producer on a lot of those older comic book movies, like in early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And I think it shows, and I think it's a factor. Some of these, like, you just totally miss the mark, but some of them, don't get me wrong, X-Men and Spider-Man, looking back, they're not amazing.
Yeah.
In certain ways, there's definitely problems with them. But I think it was definitely the road towards what we got with, with the MCU.
Yeah.
But if you disagree with that and you think it came other ways, or you think they weren't as good, or they were better, or whatever, that's one of the great things about this. You can get to have your opinion on it, and we all have our different opinions and stuff,
Spider-Man 2 was trash? Really, Sora? Spider-Man 3 absolutely was trash. Oh, yeah,
Spider-Man 3 is trash.
Spider-Man 2 was fantastic.
And X-Men did waste Sabretooth, I will give that, but X-Men and X-Men 2 are still fairly decent movies. Don't get me wrong, they're not amazing, especially looking back on them. But at the same time, they're also like 20 years old now. I do have to disagree with you on Spider-Man 2, though, like, because we talked about the Spider-Man trilogy and went back and looked at them, and like Spider-Man
we talked about it at length.
Spider-Man 2 is still a really good movie, in my opinion, anyway. It's like, but if you're not a fan of it, like, I can kind of understand, like, maybe it's just Raimi's style of doing it.
It definitely is. I will say this, and I think I said this when we did our podcast on it. I think it's definitely campy. It's in the campy category.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got Raimi, obviously.
Yeah, Raimi loves the campiness and stuff. But
I think the way that they treated Doc Ock was really good. I'm sorry, we're way off topic.
No, definitely. But no, I definitely want to respond to chat and stuff like that. It's like, but that's it. Some people aren't fans, but some people are. Like, I know people who are massive fans of superhero movies that I really don't like,
Yeah.
Like, I still stand by it. Like, I'm not a massive fan of the Captain Marvel movie that came out, and I know I'm in the minority for that. Like, everybody seems to love it. And I'm like, that's fine, That's why there's so many different comic books on shelves, because people read different stuff, Like, that's one of the great things about being comic book fans. But yeah. So Elektra comes in. Back on topic. She's been raised from the dead. How? She just is. We're not even going to really focus on that. You're waiting for the third one? Third what? I'm sorry if I'm like not keeping up with your convo at all. Sorry. Oh, the Ghost Rider one we're talking about today. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry, we're gonna hit Ghost Rider soon. Elektra's not gonna take long. Like, I literally want to mention it because it's a sequel to Daredevil that came out just a few years later.
I have nothing good to say about Elektra. I'll be straight up.
No, like, I hate how they try to hype her though. Like, she comes back for the dead. Nothing much kind of going on with how she came back. She just is. And the first guy she goes to kill is like talking about her, like, she's this whisper that she comes up to you and she whispers one last thing before she kills you. And it's like, I did watch Nostalgia Critic doing a little thing on it, and they said, if she's so good at that, how does anybody know?
That's true.
If such a good assassin, how does anybody know that's how she does it? Cute actress, one positive, actually really hot, but that's about it. Yeah, I mean, Jennifer Garner's definitely an attractive actress to play her. I'm not going to deny that, but like, the character is just horrifically bland.
Yeah, this movie is, if it's possible, is more boring than Ben Affleck looked in Daredevil.
Oh, it's possible. It's possible because I had to go over stuff for Elektra for this show. It's way possible. Because so she does the assassination and we set her up. Badass assassin, hiya!
Yeah.
What's the obvious next thing? Go back to her big fancy house with her. Oh yeah, but...
we gotta review that one, by the way.
Oh yeah, I know.
I have a soft spot for that one.
I'm kind of like arguable. Like I like Hulk, but also it's awful as well.
It's awful. But
I don't. Yeah, I'm like I don't know. It's one of those things. Like I don't know. At least something happens in Hulk.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's more than what happens here because like she goes back to her big mansion, is talking with her agent. Did you know assassins have agents? Because this one does. It books her like assassinations. Which all I'm gonna say is like seeing her there doing that training and like this agent coming in, it made me really think of like Lara Croft, like Tomb Raider, like the Angelina Jolie movies.
Mm-hmm.
Chick going around the big house who's about to go off on a mission. With like a butler just following her around.
Yeah.
Again, they gave me that vibe, and I'm like, oh, don't even try to be that. I mean, that's not a phenomenal movie either, but you know, it's like it's better than this. So she gets her assassination contract, which is to go after this father and daughter.
Yeah.
Which we don't realise at first, because for some reason they don't tell us that. She just all of a sudden is on a cabin on the lakeside.
Yeah.
And there's this family in the cabin next to her, this father and daughter, which is her next hit, but we don't get told that until after she meets them. And she starts getting friendly with the daughter and all this stuff, and gets invited over for Christmas dinner, and she's setting up how to take them out, and then basically decides, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go after them. I'm not going to do it. And then basically, see, that's what makes me question freaking what's his face, Stick being the one that sends her.
Yeah.
Because only after she stops do other assassins then come, like from the Hand, like this group of like freaking weird supernatural things that are apparently sent from the Hand. It's like
the tattoo guy.
Yeah, that's
the best CGI wolf you've ever seen in your life.
I'll give him all credit though. He's like the only one I remember.
Yeah, I know.
You tell me.
You know what's funny is
there's a team of like 5 of them. You tell me any of the rest of them, apart from like guy with tattoos and a guy that controls bed sheets.
When you first said we were going to review this movie, I started writing down notes immediately, and I wrote "tattoo lady." That shows you how much I remember the movie. It wasn't even a lady; it was a dude.
Yeah, literally all I remember.
He did have long hair though.
All I remember from the trailer is literally that scene with like the wolf coming out the chest. Mm-hmm. That's the only scene I remember from the trailer. If you say what's the trailer of Elektra got? It's got a dude with a tattoo wolf coming out his chest. That's it.
Yeah.
So the movie then flips, obviously, with her going to decide that she's going to protect this, father and daughter. Tattoo guy who saw some fights. Yeah. Yeah, tattoo guy. It's a really cool concept. Like, I love the idea that tattoos coming to life because we see the wolf, we see the snakes and stuff coming out of him. Like, it's a great concept. Like, tattoos coming to life off his body. Like, I just wish they did something with it.
Oh, hi, Mark. What's up, El Nico?
El Nico's like, oh, hi, Mark. And I'm like, is that meant to be a room reference?
I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna say, like, if not, I'm like, that's very random. It's very random anyway, but we're okay. We're pretty random in this show. But yeah, so we've got him, and we've got like bedsheet guy who like has got some sort of like telekinesis.
Bedsheet guy.
He has a fight scene with her, and it's sheets just going around the room. It is just sheets, and I'm like,
best CGI sheets you'll see in your life.
Is that a big category?
So
you know what I mean?
Is that bad?
But it's like, if you've got telekinesis, that's your move. Okay, weird.
You just waste all of your mental energy throwing all these sheets around the room.
I know. It's so freaking weird.
Yeah, it's really bad.
But yeah, so like we get these things coming in. There's a chick as well. I don't even remember what her power is. She like absorbs souls or something, and I think there's more than that. I literally can't remember who the other 2 assassins are. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure there's more. But like she goes to defending these people, and she decides to go and seek out Stick, her former mentor. You know, the mentor she didn't have in Daredevil, but now she has, because she apparently trained with him when she was a child, even though we learned that she didn't. She trained with her father because her mother had been killed. Well, it turns out her mother was killed by one of these assassins, who as a child she saw as a big demon, which I can only assume is like a hint towards like Shadowland storyline, where Daredevil becomes the Beast, and like this demon that's at the head of the hand, and it turns out, oh no, it's this guy, and it's all over the place, and it literally boils down to them fighting. The girl's meant to be like this protege that can like fight and battle in like the light or something and do all this stuff. And
can I just say, without sounding like super jerky, that kid is super annoying.
Oh yeah, like there is literally no, like she's the light, so now we have to protect her, and Stick's whole thing of like, well, I treated you badly to send you off on your own so you could like get these assassin missions and learn a lesson and come back and protect her. I'm like,
what?
I'm like, it's literally like you're just making this up on the spot, aren't you?
Are you just talking out of your butt? Yeah,
it's
you
like,
are.
It's like, you didn't plan any of this. You're just making it sound like this was your great scheme, and you planned none of this. Not a thing of it. Not one bit. And it's like, yeah. But it all leads to this big final fight where we get Elektra fighting Bedsheet Guy, the guy who killed her.
Bedsheet Guy,
that's who he is.
That's his official name.
That's the only thing I remember is that scene with them facing off in this big tall like part of the house, and like all these bed sheets like or towels or whatever the hell they were flying around. I'm like, we get like, you know, Tattoo Guy like almost gets the girl who's meant to be this protege and ends up like almost dead like immediately, only for him to then get decapitated, because it's like, oh my goodness, he's not just using the wolf, he's got these snakes and there's so many of them and they're overwhelming her. And I'm like, okay, this could be interesting. This is getting kind of cool. And then what? Shum, head off. Well, he was interesting. Thank you for that.
And you're done.
And there's the chick gets killed. And it's so bad. Like they overcome and they defeat the hand, and then all of a sudden the family's safe because they are. I didn't even get the ending. It's like, okay, they're safe now. How? Like, what's stopping the hand sending more people? The hand's bigger than 5 people. You know, is it? It's just such a bad movie.
Yeah.
They had no idea.
It's awful.
I don't even know why they made it. Like even like the whole thing of like Fox had to make movies like so often, so they kept the properties. You know, they had to make movies like every 5 years. We talked about that when we did like Fantastic Four, and we talked about that. But like this was only like 2 years after Daredevil.
Yeah, and my thing is like,
was there really an outcry for an Elektra movie? Was that really a thing?
No. And one of the things, like, as bad as Daredevil did, they didn't even reference. Well, I guess that's might be why they didn't reference. Like, they didn't even reference her basically in Daredevil. They didn't reference Daredevil. They didn't reference anything that had happened. Her getting murdered. Nothing. Yeah. Nothing was referenced.
Just the fact that she died once and came back, and like even that's barely spoken about, and it's like.
It's so weird.
It's so boring and it's so bland.
Yeah.
And again, like I just think it's such a bad take on Elektra. Like if you literally watch the Netflix show, season 2 of Daredevil, that version of Elektra, it's like night and day.
Yeah. It's the biggest waste of movie ever.
It's up there. Like it's up there in worst movies for me, along with stuff like Catwoman and like Fantastic and
it's like, I forgot about that.
It's up there with those for me. Like it's so bad. Last thoughts?
Are we done with Elektra?
Last thoughts on Elektra?
It's awful. Again, biggest waste of movie ever.
Yeah, like even like the bad stuff in Daredevil, there's enjoyable stuff in it, and there's even like, for me, there's enjoyable
qualities about Daredevil. Yeah. There are none for Elektra.
Yeah, there's enjoyable campy stuff in Daredevil. There's enjoyable actual things in Daredevil and portrayals to take. There is nothing in Elektra that is worthwhile. Not a thing. Don't watch this movie. Don't watch any, you know, recalls and all replays of it.
If you have any of the copies at home, set it on fire. You know,
sacrificial burning, cleanse your soul. You know, it's not worth it. It's all right. Let's move on to the actual other big one. Like, Because see, when I thought we were going to talk about Elektra, I thought this is going to be great. This is going to be like our Fantastic Four rant. There's going to be a lot to talk about. And like, there's not even anything to talk about.
It's so bad. There's nothing to talk about.
At least in Fantastic Four, like there was stuff to rip into, and it was like there was stuff happened. Yeah. In Elektra, like nothing happens.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the big ones that everyone's been waiting for now, Ghost Rider.
All right, I'll be straight up.
Was it like 2006, 2007, something like that? This came out.
I think it was 2007.
I want to say 2007.
2007.
Yeah, it came out starring Nicolas Cage is Johnny Blaze. Go for it. You've been waiting to talk about this. You go.
All right, the way that you feel about Colin Farrell as Bullseye is the way I feel about this movie. I know it's bad.
Oh yeah.
I know it's bad, but I don't mind this movie. And I'll say it like this. So one of the comics that I remember most, like visually growing up, is Ghost Rider. Johnny Blaze, and then there's the one right after Johnny Blaze. I can't remember the name.
Danny Ketch.
That's it. Those two Ghost Riders. Those are the ones that I grew up with, and I visually remember the comics and everything like that. And when he actually transforms into Ghost Rider and he does this crazy Nick Cage, like my face is melting off, scream.
He goes full Nick Cage in that moment. It's so good,
dude. If they do another live action Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, I hope he looks similar to the way Ghost Rider looked, because honestly I thought he looked almost perfect.
He looks really good considering it's 2007. It's really good effects.
Even his accoutrements, shall we say, his bike, his chain, everything was just. I thought they did very, very, very well.
I'm not gonna lie. Even though the 7-year-old in me loves that bike. Like that's the bike as a kid. I go like that. That's a cool bike.
Even the big skull on the front of it, like classic, like 90s Ghost Rider comics.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, I thought even though, and this is one of my main gripes, Ghost Rider wasn't on the screen a lot in that movie. Like I think less than 20 minutes or less than 10 minutes, honestly.
Yeah, really not. Like, he should have been on the screen a lot more. Like even the fight scenes he's got, like, I mean, like the villains in this are like forgettable. Like I remember, like,
they're awful.
Mephisto and Blackheart. But like, the rest of them are like these elemental things that Blackheart like brings in, and like they're all defeated in like less than 5 minutes. It's like
somebody said it was Edward Cullen, his emo cousin, and the Weird Sisters were the main villains. It's like that's actually a really, really good description.
So, well, it kind of fits because the guy that plays Blackheart is the weirdo from like American Beauty that like films the bag.
Oh, I don't remember that. I don't know if I've seen that movie.
Like the weird freaky dude is like he's like. This bag blowing, it's so beautiful. You don't get it, but it's beautiful. And I'm like, of course you turned into Blackheart. That makes perfect sense.
Of course you're Satan's son.
Over dramatic, artsy, little nothing. Of course you are.
This movie is peak crazy Nick Cage. It's peak.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's so good.
The scene where he transforms for the first time and he starts maniacally laughing is so hilarious. And terrifying at the same time.
The laughter's like it's kind of.
He's like,
oh my goodness, he's losing. That's the moment for me. I'm kind of like, did he sell his soul to the devil, or is this all in his head? Because at this moment, you could tell me either, and I'll believe it. He's clearly
the only thing I could think of when that was happening was what that looked like without the CG.
I know they had to film Nick Cage just doing that, and I'm like, you had to dub that over so many times. I'm sure.
Dude, I would have recorded that on my phone if they had cell phone cameras at the time, and just kept it.
It's so.
It's like the Shia LaBeouf green screen thing. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. You know.
It really is. But that's the thing. Though, it's like Nick Cage is so like over the top, campy bad in this. Like he goes all out on it. Which what do you expect? It's Nick Cage. Of course he does.
Yeah.
But like literally, he's the only real memorable thing from this. Ghost Rider.
I like Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott was kind of cool. I'll watch anything with Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott is cool, but he's such a throwaway character in this.
He really is.
He literally appears to kind of give a little bit of backstory. He narrates the opening story of like the Ghost Rider that ran away from the devil with a contract, which is the whole MacGuffin for the movie of this contract of 1,000 souls or whatever it is. He then becomes like a grave caretaker. Mm-hmm. Gives a bit of backstory to him, and then we get, let's be honest, the only other thing he does in this is the coolest shot in the movie.
Dude, it's so sweet.
The Ghost Riders,
horse and the bike.
The horse and the bike riding along the desert, the two Ghost Riders going into battle. Although I do have to say, I heard a critic talking about that and goes like that. I love the fact he gets him to where he goes and like, that was the last of my Ghost Rider powers. You're on your own from here. I'm like,
I know.
Could you not have ridden this like not like that and then turned into Ghost Rider here and helped me?
Dude, I get that too. He was like, I'm gonna take you where you need to go and we're gonna wreck shop. And the second he gets there, he's like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, it's like I used up the last of my power. Like, why did you?
Oh yeah, and it's day, so you can't use your powers.
Yeah, why did you use the last of your power getting here? Why didn't you wait until we got here and like turn into Ghost Rider so we can both fight him? Why didn't you save that? I'm like, but full disclosure, it's an awesome scene. Them riding through the desert is like that's a background on everything. Like that shot is so freaking cool. Like that movie was created just to give us that shot, and I am okay with it.
Yeah, and so 2 more shots pop into my brain when I was watching some recaps, and I was like, dude, I totally remember that. So when Ghost Rider, he gets his chain and he whips a helicopter and he pulls the helicopter close to him, and he says to the pilot, "You're pissing me off," and the pilot's like, "All right," and he throws the helicopter and he just bounces.
What were you going to say? Like this flaming skull-headed man has just chained up your helicopter. Like you're pissing me off, and I'm like, okay.
I think so. I think along that vein, I think the way that they show his powers, like, because he's immensely powerful. He's immensely strong, powerful, and I think both the CGI and the way that they displayed that, I thought were awesome.
Oh, they portrayed it so well.
They did a really good job with that.
Yeah, the powers are beautifully done. Yeah,
and like the bike. I go to the bike because the transformation of the bike is just awesome.
The transformation of the bike
on it.
And just everything with the bike as well. Like the scenes of him riding through town and like the flames just bursting up, everything
going up the side of the building.
He goes up
and
into the
latches on.
Yeah, like he goes up the building with it, and then like when he comes back down off it as well, it's just that boom, and he just lands sitting on it. I'm like, it's such an epic look. I'm like, this movie is designed to be enjoyed visually. It really is.
I saw a comment by somebody that said whoever storyboarded that scene where he like grasps the edge of the building and goes down it like deserves a race, and I would agree.
Oh yeah, it's so beautifully put together. Like the story isn't amazing to this movie, but the visuals are good. Like even like
the visuals are top notch.
Like even the way they do his other powers, like him becoming Ghost Rider, him transforming the bike, even the pen and stare. Like I want to know more about that. Like because he grabs that dude, and I love that he does a pen and stare on someone, which is showing them. For anyone that doesn't know with Ghost Rider, that's showing all like the sins of the person that burns them with it. And like his eyes almost like burn over like lava. It's almost like cracked molten.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that kid just like that now forever? I'm like, I want to know what happened.
Dead. I think they die, right?
Is he dead from it?
I'm pretty sure they die.
Because like I'm sure they are in the comics, but like they didn't make that clear in the movie. Like, is he just dead now? Is he like in current repentance? Is he in a coma? Like, because he just walks away from.
Does he have molten lava as a face? I mean,
because he just walks away from that kid. Like, obviously he does it to spoilers for the ending. He does it to Blackheart at the end. But Blackheart's full of the 1,000 souls at that time, so yeah, I'd imagine the power of that amount of souls getting pen and stared would like rip him apart. It's like that's a lot of power. But like for one kid, I'm like, yeah, I'll probably go with he's dead. He's probably dead. Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
So they obviously open it up like they open up the movie like they do. It's Johnny Blaze's story. Like he's a carnival jumper, riding bikes in a roadside carnival because apparently that's a thing. With his dad, like they're doing tricks, which he's jumping through a like burning hoop, and I'm like, what he ends up doing later is more I would think you should probably be doing than hey, I'm in a tent, jump. But yeah, so his dad is diagnosed with cancer, just like the comic. Johnny Blaze sells his soul to the devil to get his father cured. His father gets cured by the devil.
And he dies that night.
And then he dies doing his next trick in the tent that night.
Loophole.
And the devil obviously comes to him. Johnny Blaze is like, mad at that because obviously like you cured him and then killed him, and it's like, I did what I said I'd do. Your soul's mine.
Yep.
And I'll come calling. So like he's left forever like wondering when the devil's gonna come calling. And they obviously play up into that when he gets older, that he survived all these horrific things because it's not his time to go. The devil's waiting to use him.
Yeah.
So that's how.
And they show that slow motion crash where he like breaks his helmet open. That's so cool looking.
Yeah, he does this huge jump where he lands and he crashes, and he should so be dead after the landing like that. Yeah. But he gets up and he walks away without a scratch on him, as continually happens, which is obviously because he's going to become the Ghost Rider. We also get Eve Mendes is in this. Eva Mendes.
Who?
Yeah. Eva Mendes is in this. Like legitimately, okay. full disclosure, before we came on screen on the show today, we were literally talking a little bit about some of these movies before we went live. I said, like, Eva Mendes, like, yeah, she's just so forgettable in this. And I named for Nitro the movies. Like, I can think of 4 movies off the top of my head she's in. He legitimately had forgotten she was in 2 of those movies. Like, legitimately, oh yeah, she's in those. Like, before, like, that's what she is. Like, she is the early 2000s forgettable character. Like, she's meant to be this big female lead. Like, she's in, what was it?
She's not a bad actress, I don't think.
No, she's a bland actress. She's like, she
know.
doesn't really portray emotion. Like, she's in this, she's in Too Fast, Too Furious, she's in Hitch, and what was the other one? I've forgotten the 4th one now.
She's in Other Guys with Will Ferrell.
Other Guys, that was it. Other Guys. Like,
I actually liked her in that. I thought she was funny.
She's pretty decent in that, but like in Hitch and Too Fast, Too Furious, she is literally forgettable. She's one of the few people in the Fast and Furious franchise that has appeared and never came back. Let that sink in. Look at the people they have brought back after.
They even brought back dead people.
Like like literally the most recent movies, they have brought back people who were killed off in other movies, and it's like
who were murdered on the screen, so there's no question.
Like, Hans is back. I'm like,
didn't he blow up in a car?
Yeah, he blew up, and it's like, I know he's been back since then, but like these are prequels to that. That's meant to be set after. Now he's just literally back from the dead. Like, okay. Like, she hasn't been brought back since that. Like, that tells you something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she's a love interest in this, and she is so forgettable.
Yeah.
She is, like, not even... Did she do anything in this? Like, she's with him, and they're going to run away and get married.
She got mad at him for ignoring her.
They're going to run away and get married at the start until his father dies, and he runs off. She shows back up to interview him later. She's now a reporter. He does like motorcycle tricks to catch up with her when she leaves, to try and go to dinner with him. She pops up frequently throughout the movie to get mad at him, and is for some reason there at the finale, mostly to agree with him that she can't be with him even though she loves him.
Yeah,
that's literally her role in this movie. So yeah, let's move on. I literally have nothing else to say on her as a character. That is
so. I think this movie struggles with a lot of the stuff that early 2000s CBM struggled with, which again, I go back to is tone. Like, there is one point in this film where Nicolas Cage, in all his Nicolas Caginess, is sitting down watching a chimpanzee do karate with someone while eating jelly beans out of a martini glass, maniacally laughing. That is an actual scene in this movie, for those of you who have forgotten.
I don't think that's a scene. I think that's just what Nick Cage was doing when the camera was left on.
Somebody said, I don't know if that was scripted. That was just him doing what he does.
Yeah, like he's literally just sitting, eating jelly beans out of a martini glass, laughing at a monkey doing karate. And I'm like, of course he was. Why wouldn't he?
Ghost Rider says yeehaw at one point, which is... And then he throws, at one point, what looks like a snowball, but it's flaming, and he throws it at the face of Blackheart. I'm just like, again, it's just the tone. It's too campy for me.
It's so backcrack.
I love it. I have a soft spot for this movie, but it is super campy. It's super campy.
All right, so do we want to get to talking about our villains? Because I want to try and keep us to 2 hours this week, since we went desperately over last week. So I'm trying to keep us to 2 hours this week. So the villains, as we talked about, like Mephisto isn't really a villain in this. He comes in as the devil, sells out his soul, turns him into Ghost Rider. That's about it. The Ghost Rider's invoked to fight off the Devil's son, Blackheart. Mm-hmm. That's why he comes and cashes him in, and he literally shows up again at the end. He isn't even a villain in this, really.
No. It's the 3, like, element-based demons or whatever.
The main villain is Blackheart and, like, his 3 elementals, who the elementals
water,
are, like...
and fire, right?
Water, air, and fire. It's actually water, air, and fire, I think. Like, I always remember the air one, because that's the one where he's on top of the building and he like whips his chain into like a whirlwind and sets it on fire.
That's right.
Catch the wind guy, which is like which is a cool concept. I do like the concept, but the fight scene's over in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's awful.
Like, there's no fight. Like, this guy just passes through things and passes through the chains when he tries to tie him up. And like, oh, I'm gonna whip it into a chain and it's on fire and you're sent back to hell.
And you're done. And then you have the one in the water. He kills in the water, right? He turns into Ghost Rider somehow underwater.
Well, yeah, because it's hellfire. It can burn underwater.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's not just like fire. And then is the fire dude the first one that dies? Because that's the one after they try to like impale him with the truck.
Oh yeah, so the
And I
fire guy
thought,
hits him with the truck, and then he's like, "Ha ha!" I hit him with the truck. Then he hops out, and then that's when he wraps him up with the chain and like punches him in the face,
yeah,
and like knocks half his face off. And I think that he does the penance stare to that dude, right? Doesn't he? I don't know. I could
I
be
don't
wrong.
think he does it to him. I think the only bad guy I remember him doing it to is Blackheart. But
Okay.
um, so yeah. Anyway, he fights
No,
these.
that's right. He wraps him up with a chain, and he turns into ash. That's right.
Yeah. So like,
That's right.
he quickly dispatches these elementals. They're really not a massive thing for him. He goes like back and forth to Sam Elliott. I'm sure the guy's got a name, but it's Sam Elliott. It's just Sam Elliott.
Carter Spade is his name.
His
Carter
name's
Spade.
Sam Elliott. He is
in every movie.
He is
Sam
literally
Elliott.
portraying himself. There is no
in
acting
every
in
movie.
this.
In every movie.
It is.
Much.
Go and watch this movie and tell
It's
me
true.
it isn't just him. Like seriously, it's just Sam Elliott. Yeah, like I
That
don't
was my
even.
impression of Sam Elliott.
It's pretty spot on, to be fair.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, to be fair, it's pretty good. But yeah, so like he goes to see him a few times, and then he's the one that takes him to where Blackheart's hiding out, because it's like the place like where the contract had originally been stolen from, like when he ran from the devil with it, because he's the Ghost Rider that left at the start with the contract and buried it, which he's been keeping in his shovel for however many years it's been missing, because he like breaks off the end of his shovel and takes it out, and I'm like,
It's like, oh yeah, here it is. Bam.
like, really? That's where you've been hiding it? Mephisto
That's
couldn't
it?
work. Mephisto couldn't find you and work that out. Really? Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but in the comics, could there be two Ghost Riders at one time? Like, was that a normal thing?
It can be. Usually there's only like one, but yeah, but
Okay.
like, I don't know how many we've seen it with past Ghost Riders, but definitely in recent ones, there's been like, I know like Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch and stuff like that have like crossed paths and stuff. Robbie Reyes has as well, but it's technically not a Ghost Rider in the same way the others are Ghost Riders.
Gotcha.
There was like a female Ghost Rider as well, and yeah, there's been crossovers with Ghost Rider, so it's definitely a possible thing, because it's just a power that's bestowed. It's not like a mantle that's passed on. But yeah, so like he's the previous Ghost Rider, so we get the cool scene going through the desert that we talked about to Ghost Riders in the Night, a really cool rock version of that song, which is actually really sweet as well and helps make that scene. To where Blackheart's hiding out, he's kidnapped Eva Mendes, because of course he has.
Of course.
Because, kidnapped, damsel in distress, why not? They get there to fight, and of course he goes to turn Ghost Rider, starts the fight, and the sun ends up coming up. And of course the Ghost Rider power only works in darkness when next to pure evil, so he has to be in darkness for it to work, and the sun comes up, he's in pure light, he can't go Ghost Rider, so Blackheart takes the contract from him and absorbs it, and absorbs all these souls that are meant to give him like this great power. Not quite sure how, they never really explain that part, but like it's great power.
Yeah. It just is, believe me.
It's just this great power. Really great. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. So yeah, they go to fight, and then they end up battling him into the church, which has got holes in the roof, so the sunlight's coming in there as well. But he ends up realizing that in the shadows he can turn into Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
So like he does
or
the whole
part of him.
Yeah, so like part of him's like he puts his hand with the shotgun into a shadow, and it turns into like a Ghost Rider weapon, and he like blasts him and almost takes his head off, and so he ends up like pushing him into the shadow, and that's where he uses the penance stare. Because earlier in the movie he tries to use it and it doesn't work because Blackheart doesn't have a soul.
Yeah.
But now he's got the 1,000 souls within him. He can burn them with the sins of all these souls.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how he ends up defeating them and sending them back to hell. Which I think is a really cool ending, to be honest. I like that idea of like he can't do the penance stare, his ultimate thing to finish him. Yeah. But with all the souls that are meant to give him power, it also gave him the weakness that Ghost Rider needed. I'm like, I like that,
Yeah, that was cool.
It's quite a cool finish to it. I think it was decent. Blackheart getting finished like that, I can work with. And for fulfilling his contract, Mephisto reappears and tells Blaze he can take the powers away from him now. He did what he needed to do.
And then in true Nicolas Cage fashion.
And he decides, I'm going to keep the powers, and I'm going to keep coming after you. Which I'm like, I never quite understood that, because couldn't Mephisto go like that? Nah.
Yeah.
And just take them back?
Is that what we're gonna do? Okay, well then I'll just take them by force.
I'm like, you're the one that's giving them and taking them. Can't you just take them back? But okay, apparently he's got the ability to keep them if he wants. I don't know, like power of the deal or the contract or whatever. Yeah, and so he kisses his love goodbye and goes off to being Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance, which is a whole movie to itself.
Yeah, so I got a question. So if his powers can't work in daylight, if I remember correctly, Spirit of Vengeance, there was a huge scene of him riding his bike, being chased on the freeway or chasing cars on the freeway, and he was full Ghost Rider, and it was broad daylight, if I remember correctly.
Maybe it was a shadowy day. It was a cloud over the highway, or
oh man,
there probably is.
Ghost Rider was I like Ghost Rider. I don't know if I got in my way to buy it.
Sort of saying in the chat is like Ghost Rider was such a good movie, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'll be honest, it's enjoyable. Like, don't get me wrong, it's one of those that's so bad it's good ones for me. It's definitely like a campy sort of movie, and it's like I'm not going to like hold it up to stuff like the MCU and say it competes, because it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But like, yeah, if it's on, I would probably happily sit and watch this one. Probably not Spirit of Vengeance, but at least the first one, yeah.
So I read an article from, because Nick Cage had been asked about this, and he did an interview like years later, and he said, you know, this was after Deadpool and all that stuff, and all the success of Logan and all that stuff being R-rated comics, and I would agree with him. He said, I think this would have done way better if this was like more skewed, more R-rated. Because, you know, Ghost Rider is a really like hardcore character.
Yeah, like you could have done a lot of stuff with it in that sort of mentality. You could have done a lot of stuff with an R-rated film.
And I'm like, I'm not for just making a film R-rated just to make it R-rated, but if the character calls for it, absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I don't quite get why they didn't do that. Like, I think it would have worked a lot better like that.
I think they just might have been scared to make an R-rated comic, because I think they're still like targeting them to kids. I don't know at that time. I think they really struggling with what they want the tone to be with those types of movies.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think they would have probably not quite known what to do with it, and that there wasn't really like you said, there wasn't really an R-rated thing there. Like not Daredevil, and Deadpool changed all of that.
Yeah,
Deadpool changed it all and gave us
even the Netflix shows. I mean, if they were movies, they would probably be hard PG-13. Some of them might be R.
Yeah.
So,
very possibly. Like, there wasn't a market back then. I don't think that's the thing. Like, they didn't quite know what they were marketing to. Like, the MCU very much is marketing to like an older audience with a little bit for kids as well.
Yeah.
Which obviously they've kind of pushed. They're starting to push further out every time. Like, which you can see even from, like, you know, the phase 1 there wasn't any cussing to phase 2 where it's like they started to cuss a lot more, and they started to push out stuff. But yeah, I think Logan and Deadpool definitely opened the door to R-rated stuff, and they wanted to start doing that with Venom, so there might be an opportunity for a Ghost Rider like that. So we're in the chat saying I wish they would really remake it, and I'm like,
I agree.
I feel like it's coming. I think they tested the water with Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So especially as they start to open up that door, like with Moon Knight and Blade and stuff, I think we'll eventually see Ghost Rider getting redone.
I'm hearing rumblings of possibly Keanu Reeves, but I'm hearing rumblings of Johnny Blaze being introduced, or multiple Ghost Riders being introduced in a Doctor Strange, either movie or WandaVision.
That could be interesting.
That's what I'm hearing.
That could be an interesting
because I mean, obviously Doctor Strange deals with dimensions and hell and all that stuff, and you know, Wanda or Scarlet Witch, whatever, she crosses over into that as well. So yeah, I think it'd be really cool.
I'd be up for seeing what they do with it.
Yeah,
I'd be up for definitely seeing more Ghost Rider stuff now. I think it's been long enough since the Nicolas Cage movies. We tested the water in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, who's the most recent one in the comics, obviously. And we even hinted at that like he crossed paths with Johnny Blaze, but we never got to see the person. We just know it was a Ghost Rider. Yeah. So like they've definitely opened that door of like there are other Ghost Riders in the MCU apart from Robbie Reyes, so the door's definitely there to bring Blaze or Ketch in. So like I'm all for it. I'm all for seeing more Ghost Rider. I think he's a cool character with a cool story to them. I think they could do a lot of stuff, especially like they're starting to do more Midnight Sun stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we've got Doctor Strange going a bit more into the multiverse stuff. We've got Blade coming. We've got Moon Knight coming. We could definitely do a Midnight Sun sort of thing with Ghost Rider involved, and with that sort of stuff. So I'd love to see that personally.
Agreed.
All right. Any last thoughts on Ghost Rider then? Any last thoughts to wrap us up for today?
I like Ghost Rider. I'm not ashamed to say that. I like Ghost Rider. I would watch it if it was on TV. I would sit down and take the time to watch it.
Yeah, the first one definitely. I would probably be okay with watching it as well. Not my favorite movie, but like it's definitely not the worst. I've definitely seen worse. We talked about one of them today.
Yeah. Never to mention it again.
No, definitely not. All right, so yeah, I think that's pretty much us for this week. Coming up next week, again, as we talked about, Nitro is going to be out of town the next couple of weeks, so we've got some interesting shows coming up. Sort of saying now he wants to watch it again. So next week we've got Lewis Southard, as we mentioned, coming back next week. He's going to be sitting down with me talking about Umbrella Academy Season 1 and 2. And we are going to be going full spoilers on it, so this is your chance to go ahead and binge through Season 2 if you've not seen it, or the whole show if you've not seen any, for next Sunday, so you can be part of that conversation. And definitely I hope you do that. We want you to be part of it. And following that, we're going to have Isaac from the Infinity Bros back on the show, guest hosting with me, as we're going to be talking about the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the Andrew Garfield ones, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and that's a whole thing in itself, especially that second one. Thank you, Tommy, saying great show as always. Thank you, brother, I appreciate it. And then the following week after that, I'm actually not going to be here. We've got family coming in from out of town, so Nitro's going to be all in his lonesome. So make sure if you come on in, keep him company, keep him going with that. And I think he's possibly going to be doing some gaming he's thinking about doing that week. So come on in, show him some love. He'll still be trying to come on around about the same time, so come and show him some love for that.
Yep.
And yeah, give him some support in that. But we'll be announcing that as we go on. Again, that's still like 3 weeks out, so we'll be plugging that a lot more.
We could do an anime. Forgot about that.
Yeah,
I might have to save that for a future show, Sora, because I definitely want to do that.
Never seen co-host me. Oh, hi, CV, how you doing? Yeah. There's a Wolverine anime? Yes, there is. There is absolutely a Wolverine anime. There's actually a bunch of animes. I think like Doctor Strange got one as well, and I'm sure there's other ones. But Wolverine actually fits the anime thing because he's got such a Japanese Ronin sort of feel to him and background. Like it actually works.
You know there's an Iron Man anime.
An Iron Man anime, that was it. I knew there was another one. I knew there's been a few that they released, but yeah, the Wolverine one's probably like the major one, so yeah, we might need to bring Sora on then if we actually go into talking about the anime stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
For that, because we'll need to go and watch them. Oh, also as well, I might as well announce since we're talking anime stuff. CB saying, doing good, I had no idea, I only heard about the Batman anime thing. Oh yeah, Batman Ninja.
I own it, it's awesome.
Another cool one, but yeah, Marvel started dipping their toe into that a few years ago. Just at a random, it felt like. But yeah, so like we talked about in the podcast before, I have never watched any of the Dragon Ball Z shows. So we put out our official vote out there for people to vote in, and the overwhelming vote is for me to watch Dragon Ball Z.
Of course.
Is to watch Dragon Ball Z. Because I put out, do I start with Dragon Ball, which is technically the beginning of the show, or Dragon Ball Z, which was like the more popular, the more well-known one, the one that's out there. So it looks like it's going to be Dragon Ball Z. So I'm going to be looking at getting a hold of watching Dragon Ball Z stuff, and we're going to be talking about it on a future show, because apparently I offended the world when I said I hadn't seen any Dragon Ball stuff, and Nitro sighed a sigh of relief because it wasn't him for once. They said something.
You rag on me all the time for not knowing like sci-fi stuff, so
I don't rag on you. They rag on you. I just agree.
You pile on, all right? So I get to do that every now and then.
Yes, I do. I'm not gonna lie. It's fun. So yeah, so that's going to be a future show. I'm going to be watching some Dragon Ball Z, and we are going to be talking about it. I have never seen any Dragon Ball Z stuff. I have no clue what to really expect. I know bits and pieces that I've heard of, but I've never watched the show, so I'm pretty much going to be coming in blind to it. So,
I have all the seasons. except for the last one. So if you need to borrow them, you can.
I probably will do, because like, of course, like all the streaming services have Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT, but do they have Dragon Ball Z? Freaking no. Of course they don't.
Of course not.
So I will probably actually, whenever I drop off Invincible for you, I'll probably pick up Dragon Ball Z so I can watch it. And then we'll be talking about it on the show at some point. So once I get to watch that, we'll set up a date for it.
Sweet.
Gotta watch Dragon Ball first. Goku's journey is amazing. Well, see, you say that to me, but like literally most people told me Z. I have to go Z. Like it was on across 3 social media platforms. It was quite resounding. I would say watch the
probably the one that people connect with the most. I would
sort of saying I would say watch the original so you know the story before diving in. But I do not like DBZ. That's a first. Sora saying he doesn't
saying Winter Soldier isn't in your top 5. I mean, that's a bold statement.
Sora saying he doesn't like Dragon Ball Z. That is the first I've heard that. That is not. Yeah, I've never heard anyone say they did not like Dragon Ball Z. That's a lot of people saying dive into Dragon Ball Z because there's a lot more action in it, and you can pick up the characters, and then you can go back and watch Dragon Ball to get the backstory filled in. Yeah. So in all honesty, I'm probably going to do that because a lot of people are saying it's going to be a good hook to get into it, and I want to give it the best shot possible to get in. If I find it's not working and I'm really not getting into it, I will go back and watch Dragon Ball and try it from that perspective and see if it helps fill stuff in. Yeah. Because I want to get it a fair shot. Okay, you have to understand it's an all fighting, not really a story development.
I disagree. I mean, it's definitely not like William Shakespeare or anything like that. But anyways,
we'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. I've heard a lot of things now. I'm hearing different perspectives, but I'll give it a go. But CV, I don't like DBZ. It was so popular throughout my childhood, but the girl characters were completely useless, and it was extremely frustrating in my opinion. I feel like a lot of anime have that issue. I would say that depending what anime you watch, like I'm not a big anime person. That's why I've never really watched it. There's only certain animes I have watched. So I can see where you're coming from with it though, but I can definitely understand that. Like, but I feel like that's more of a sign of the times because it came out like 80s, 90s.
If you want to see an anime with
which a lot of female characters and a lot of stuff were basically useless characters. They were basically just there to.
If you want to see an anime with bad A chicks and useless dudes, you should watch Neon Genesis Evangelion. That's a really good one.
I will let him put that out there. I have no idea what that is, so I'm like, that's all on him. I ain't got a clue what that is. So, but all right, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for everyone that came in and joined the chat. Again, we'll be back next week at 2:00 our usual time. Sailor Moon, strong female and card
Agreed.
Captor. Yeah,
Sailor Moon is a deep cut for me. I love that one.
Sailor Moon, a good one. I did see some of that, and I did like Card Captor as well when I was younger. I did watch some of that. That's a good one as well. Not that any character should be useless. Yeah, none should be useless, but like there was a typical running thing that like the female characters were either useless or at least background characters in a lot of like anime and like action shows and superhero shows and stuff like that through a time period. So I definitely, I get where you're coming from with that. I can definitely say I've seen that. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and try and raid someone. I don't even know who's live right now, so let me have a quick look on Twitch. If anyone knows...
Good Kid Dad is on.
Good Kid Dad's on. If anyone knows anyone that's live that we could raid and drop in, I'm trying to do different...
Comics in the Cross is live.
Oh, sweet, man. We should totally raid them. They're awesome. And if you aren't following yet, but you're in here, by all means hit that follow button. And if you want to drop a sub, go ahead, drop a sub to us. You can use Amazon Prime for that.
Don't forget to pick up some leggings. Teespring. That's right.
Yep. This is Nitro's mission in life, to get somebody to buy a pair of leggings. He can retire once a pair of leggings have been bought. Alright, let me see. Okay, so the person I was expecting to raid who said they were going to be on streaming, I thought, okay, we can drop in on them, is not on. Yeah, let's raid Good Kid Dad if he's on. It's been a few weeks since we've done him, so. Alright, so we're going to head to our heading out page. Lady Deb of Troubles. Do I even know her? Let me go and raid Kid Dad for now, but I'll definitely check her out, Sora, and see that. But we'll raid Kid Dad. You guys all have an amazing week. Hope you all have a blessed time, and we will see you all next week. Let me throw up our intro page. Where is it? My stuff has moved. I don't like it when stuff moves. Alright, you have a great week, guys. Take care.
Yes.